Good morning to everyone gathered in this meeting, and welcome to this meeting that has been called by the Chief of Staff and Head of the Public Service. I want to warmly welcome you to this meeting. And before we proceed, we'd like to say a word of prayer so that we can then be able to be blessed and proceed with this meeting. Thank you.
Yes, good morning, everyone. We are going to pray. Let us pray. Almighty God, we thank you for the gift of this day and for bringing us together for this important engagement in service to education and our nation. We are grateful for the leadership present here today, the head of public service, the principal secretary, directors from the ministry, regional and county directors of education, TSC officials, heads of institutions, deputies, BOM members, and administrative teams, and everybody present. Thank you for the responsibility you have entrusted to us in shaping the future of our learners. As we listen to the address and engage in the deliberations ahead, we ask for your wisdom, understanding, and unity of purpose. Guide our leaders as they speak and guide us all as we listen, reflect, and commit ourselves to improving our institutions and supporting the success of every learner. Bless our nation, bless our schools, bless the work of our hands, O Lord. We commit this meeting into your hands. I pray this, believing and trusting in Jesus' name.
Thank you very much. That was Madam Faith Nkatha Mudhomi from the State Department for Basic Education. Once again, a warm welcome from the Office of the Chief of Staff and Head of the Public Service, led by the Chief of Staff and Head of the Public Service himself. A warm welcome from the State Department for Basic Education, with whom the Chief of Staff and Head of the Public Service is partnering in this meeting, as well as the Teachers Service Commission. We welcome all of you gathered from all around the country, and we're very, very happy to be able to be in one forum at the same time with everyone. And we hope that we shall be able to have a wonderful interaction for the few hours that we're together. And you are requested to ensure that you remain in this meeting from the beginning till the end. The Chief of Staff and Head of the Public Service has issued a very strong directive on this, that all persons who are logged in this meeting are required to remain from the beginning till the end. And the Principal Secretary will be reiterating this in his remarks. So allow me to acknowledge various key persons who are in this meeting, starting with the Chief of Staff and Head of the Public Service, who is our chief guest in this meeting as well as the host. I also want to recognize the presence of the Principal Secretary, State Department for Basic Education, Ambassador Professor Julius Bitok. I would like to recognize the presence of the Principal Administrative Secretary in the Executive Office of the President, Mr. Arthur Osia. I would like to recognize the presence of the Chairperson and the Chief Executive Officer of the Teachers Service Commission, who respectively will be making presentations in this meeting, and will introduce them again at the time. I recognize the presence of senior officers from the State Department for Basic Education as well as the Teachers Service Commission. You're most welcome. And I want to recognize the presence of all distinguished participants in this meeting from around the country. We've got members of, we've got county and sub-county directors in this meeting. We have all chairpersons of members of boards of management of schools. We have principals, we have deputy principals, and then we have the senior administrative officers who manage matters, finance, accounts, procurement, as well as audit. Please feel welcome. Just for your information, just so that we're able to work together, a few housekeeping items for your information and for you to follow through. One, I'd like to introduce my fellow moderators who will be assisting with this meeting, and that is Dr. William Sugut from the State Department of Basic Education and Mr. Chrysantos Ogoni from the Teachers Service Commission. These are the people who will be working together to be able to, to just take this meeting forward. I also want to be able to just bring to your attention that it's important for you to introduce yourself in the chat section of this Zoom meeting. The Zoom meeting has got more than 10,000 people, And as you can see, when the 10,000 mark is exceeded, you have been redirected to YouTube. And if you're on YouTube, whether you're on YouTube or whether you're in the Zoom, kindly introduce yourself in the chat section by stating your name, your designation, the station where you work out, and the county. This being a webinar, the microphones of everyone are muted, so one is unable to, to put on their microphone except for those who've been given speaker duties. And for anybody who will wish to say something during the plenary section, kindly you'll be requested to raise your hand using the raise your hand facility at the bottom of the Zoom. And if you're on YouTube, I'm afraid on this occasion, it is not possible for us to be able to extend that interface into the meeting. However, please feel free to write your comments or questions in the chat section of the YouTube as well, and we shall endeavor to make sure that all questions are answered. If you look at the bottom of your screen, if you're on Zoom, you'll see that you have got a Q&A section. Kindly use that section to be able to raise questions that you require responses to. We have a big team on standby from the State Department for Basic Education, a big team on standby from the Teacher Service Commission to respond to your questions as best as they can. Of course, please note that if you ask, personal, sort of questions that require someone to go back into a file elsewhere, look at and respond to you, those questions will be noted, and of course, in due course, an answer will be sought to be given to you. Then the chat section, as I said, in this Zoom meeting and on the YouTube page, feel free to use those to be able to have discussions that are about the subject matter of this meeting. You're highly discouraged from putting material in the chat section as well as on the YouTube page that is not relevant to the purpose of this meeting today. Now, I also want to be able to say that at the end of this meeting, using the email addresses that you have joined this meeting, we shall send all this the recording of this meeting, as well as the presentations that will be made by the various speakers. So you do not have to worry about forgetting or wanting to refer subsequently, because we are aware that after these Zoom meetings, people want to go and review them together with their various committees. For example, the Board of Management might want to watch this video recording again on its own. The principals and deputy principals may wish to do so, and may wish to also look at the presentations that have been made, and you're very welcome to do so. So without further ado, I would want at this point to call the Principal Administrative Secretary in the Office of the Chief of Staff, that is Mr. Arthur Osia, to be able to come on board and be able to, welcome the entire team from all over the country to this meeting, whereupon he's going to invite the Principal Secretary in the State Department for Basic Education to speak, who will in turn welcome the Chief of Staff and Head of the Public Service to make their welcoming remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Linda. The Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service, Mr. Felix Koskei, the Principal Secretary, Basic Education, Professor Ambassador Julius Bitok, the Director, Basic Education, the Chair, Teacher Service Commission, Regional, County, Sub-County Directors of Education, all chairpersons and members of boards of management, all principals of secondary schools, all deputy principals, all senior administrative officers, namely heads of finance, accounts, procurement, and internal audit. Good morning. Allow me to warmly welcome all of you to this session, bringing together all the leaderships of our public secondary schools in Kenya as part of the continued series of consultative engagements. Colleagues, the Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service has been undertaking deliberate and structured series of engagements to strengthen coherence, reinforce unity of purpose, and sharpen strategic focus across the public service. These engagements form part of the broader revitalization and re-energization campaign, which is a central reform initiative under the leadership of the Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service, aimed at consolidating progress, deepening institutional alignment, and renewing our collective commitment to disciplined, results-driven service delivery. As part of this campaign, the leadership of secondary schools are now a key focus of this targeted engagement. While the reform agenda applies across the entire public service, specific sectors require tailored messaging and strategic emphasis to address unique operational realities and accelerate measurable performance improvements. It is needless to say, colleagues, that of course we all know this is a first of its kind, that the head of public service is directly addressing heads of secondary schools in an attempt to re-energize and revitalize service delivery to our people. It is the feeling of the head of public service that the leaderships of secondary schools occupy a special place in service delivery and molding citizens of this country to be future leaders. I'm pleased to report that through the leadership of the Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service, this reform agenda has gained significant traction across the public service. To date, the office has undertaken extensive engagements across the ecosystem, including, but not limited to, regulatory authorities and agencies, the leadership of all public universities, including chancellors, vice chancellors, council members, deans, and registrars. The office has also engaged the leadership of all our TVETs, institutions, including chairpersons of councils and boards, principals, deputy principals, and heads of departments. The office has also convened meetings with all heads of human resource function across the public service, as well as public finance management officers, including heads of internal audit, finance officers, accountants, and procurement officers. We have also engaged all public officers across all cadres, in all duty stations within and outside the country. This office has also engaged with leaderships of all our research institutions with the same message. Equally, we have engaged all national administrative officers, NGAOs in our virtual engagement yesterday. The plan is to sustain and deepen this sensitization drive by extending the same reform message to the leadership of our public secondary schools today and the leadership of all our public primary schools across the country tomorrow. The objective is to ensure that this revitalization and re-energization agenda reaches every level of governance and every corner of the Republic, embedding a culture of accountability, discipline, and results-oriented service throughout the public service architecture. Above all, we must ensure that whatever we do translates into a lived experience for our citizens, that our citizens feel, that our citizens judge, and our citizens experience the public service as being responsive, as being caring, as being accountable, and as being fully connected to their needs and aspirations. I urge each one of us to cascade this message throughout our respective institutions. And I want to repeat, I urge all of us to cascade this message throughout our institutions. The experience of the head of public service and chief of staff in engagements with the state corporations, with the MDAs, and all the other sectors is that we as managers at this level, after attending these meetings, some of us don't remember to cascade the message by holding meetings with the people under us, passing the message from government. That's why I'm emphasizing this area. After this interactive meeting, please, let's make sure that we cascade this message to all cadres of our workers, up to the last one. I want to remind you, and I know you are aware, that the head of public service has even held meetings with your drivers. That is how far we want this message cascaded. The conversation must continue at every level until the change we seek becomes visible, becomes tangible, and unmistakable to the citizens we serve. With those remarks, allow me to welcome the PS for the State Department of Basic Education, Ambassador Professor Julius Bitok. Karibu Bwana PS.
The Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service, the Chairperson of Teacher Service Commission, members of the boards of management, education officials present, principals, deputy principals, senior administrative officers, and distinguished participants. Good morning. My name is Ambassador Professor Julius Bitok, PS for State Department for Basic Education. And I want to take this opportunity to warmly welcome all of you to this important consultative meeting, bringing together key stakeholders in the management and administration of our public, secondary, and senior schools across the country. Allow me to particularly appreciate the Office of the Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service for convening this historic engagement with leaders of our public, senior, and secondary schools. This meeting provides an important platform to reflect on the role that schools play within the broader public service and to reaffirm the values that guide the delivery of education in our country. Head of Public Service, it is important to note that this meeting is historic because it is the first time in the history of this country that we are having this kind of meeting. And from a brief from my officers, it is the first and is of its own kind that we have ever held in this sector. Public secondary schools and senior schools are central to the realization of Kenya's national development goals. They shape the future of our young people and serve as institutions through which the government delivers one of the most important public services, that is our education. For this reason, school leaders and members of boards of management carry a significant responsibility. Beyond managing institutions of learning, they serve as stewards of public resources and custodians of the values and principles that guide the public service. This morning's engagement, therefore, provides an opportunity to reflect on the policy and governance framework that guide our education, as well as the expectations placed upon us public officers entrusted with the management of public institutions. And I'm confident that the discussions today will strengthen collaboration among the Ministry of Education, the Teacher Service Commission, the boards of management, and school leadership across the country. As you're aware, our road to the first world is largely dependent on our success in the education sector. And I want to reaffirm that the state of education in Kenya or in this country is strong, progressive, and firmly focused on meeting our national development goals. I am confident that our education will be able to transform this country from third world to first world. I do not want to take a lot of time, Chief of Staff, Head of Public Service. And with those brief remarks, it is now my pleasure to invite our guest of honor, who is the Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service, Honorable Felix Koskei, to deliver his welcome remarks. Karibu, Honorable Felix Koskei, to deliver your welcome remarks. And I want to sincerely thank you for coming up with this idea of ensuring that we consolidate all our stakeholders in the education sector to be able to take this sector forward. Karibu.
Thank you very much, PS Basic Education, Professor Bitok, all senior government officials in the ministry, all county and sub-county directors of education, all chairpersons and members of the Board of Management, all principals, all deputy principals, and all senior administrative officers, namely heads of finance, accounts, procurement, and internal audit. Good morning. I want to take this early opportunity to welcome all of you to this meeting. I know this is a meeting of its own kind. It has never been held before, but it is a meeting that as an office, we thought it's good for this office to interact, as it has been interacting with other public officers from other sectors, with those who are working with the Ministry of Education. I want to emphasize that this is an interactive meeting, a meeting that we are sensitizing each other on the need of all of us to recalibrate our ways of doing things, to reorganize our trajectory and align it to the trajectory of the President of the Republic of Kenya in as far as the transformation of the country. So I want all of us to really be very keen. Let us stay put. Let us listen to the presenters that are going to present some, those who have presentations on some areas, and thereafter I will give my keynote address in another 1 hour. So I want all of us to really feel comfortable here, to know that we are here, all of us together, so that we can close ranks, have our minds meet for the sake of the development of this country. So welcome all of us, and let us keep our presence here. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those welcoming remarks, Chief of Staff and Head of the Public Service, as well as Ambassador Professor Julius Bitok, the PS from the State Department for Basic Education. We move on with our program, but first of all, I must say that as has been indicated, this meeting is historic. We have 10,000 persons on this particular Zoom meeting who are sat either individually and in groups. And I would want to request that if you're sat in groups, kindly ensure that you've written the names of all the people that you're sitting with so that their attendance can be recorded. Ensure that you have written the names of all the people that you're sitting with in the group. And this applies also to YouTube, where we now have about 22,000 participants, again, who are sat individually, and many sat in groups. So the attendance in this meeting is quite prolific, and we welcome all of you warmly to this meeting. Again, just for the sake of persons who need to also be able to work with us in this meeting, kindly ensure that you introduce yourself and your designation, where you're coming from, that is the county, and the school from where you come from. Indicate if you're a Board of Management member, indicate whether you're a principal, a deputy principal, and etc. I also want to remind you that we have a question and answer section in the Zoom platform at the bottom where you can be able to raise questions. As I said, our team is on standby to be able to respond to those questions. If you're on the YouTube platform, if you have a question, kindly also feel free to put it there so that the teams, as they go through what they're looking at, they'll be able to also address the questions that you have. So at this point, I want to be able to welcome my colleague, Mr. Felix K, to be able to set the context quite briefly and succinctly so that we can understand why we're in this meeting together. Again, we welcome those pictures that we can be able to get at the end of this meeting of all of us, sat together, being able to just follow this meeting. We'd really appreciate if you could be able to send them to your county directors and sub-county directors so that we can be able to capture those moments as we are together in this meeting. So karibuni nyote. Collins, please.
Thank you very much, Daktari. To the Chief of Staff and the Head of Public Service, our PS, the Department for Basic Education, the Chairperson TSC, the CEO TSC, our PAS EOP, the principals, deputy principals, and all BOM members. Good morning. Good morning once more. My name is Felix K. I'm the Secretary Legal Affairs at the Executive Office of the President under the leadership of the Chief of Staff and the Head of Public Service. My role this morning is basically just to set context on the reason why we've convened this particular morning. And even before I delve into the context, perhaps some of you, or most of you for that matter, are interacting with the Office of the Chief of Staff and the Head of Public Service for the first time. So I'd like in the next 2-3 minutes just to lay a basis on what this particular office does and the nexus between the call to this particular meeting that you've received together with the office. So just for a clear understanding, the Office of the Chief of Staff and the Head of Public Service is an office established under Article 132 of the Constitution, that is Article 132(4), that provides the President with the power to be able to establish offices. And further, this office has been established through an Act of Parliament, that is the National Government Coordination Act, that is Act number 4 of 2024, and with particular reference to section number 8, that provides that there shall be established the office of the Head of Public Service, that is section 8.3. And when you go down further to section 8.6, subsection B, provides that this Head of Public Service shall double up as the Chief of Staff to the President. Now, this particular office is the office that communicates for and behalf of the President. When the Chief of Staff and the Head of Public Service communicates, this is a communication that is done on behalf of the President. When you look at the architecture of the act that establishes it, the Chief of Staff and the Head of Public Service does not have a pen or a mouth of his own. He only writes or communicates on behalf of the President. And when you go further under the Executive Order number 1 of 2025, it has provided in granular details the functions, and it has codified them into 8 high-level functions of the Office of the Chief of Staff and the Head of Public Service. And I'll speak to the 6 that are relevant to this particular session as to the roles which in the framing of the executive order has been provided. And the first role of the Chief of Staff and the Head of Public Service is that he is the administrative head of the executive of the President. And while undertaking this function, the Chief of Staff and the Head of Public Service acts as the head, as the front office of the President, so that while the President undertakes other duties, the Chief of Staff and the Head of Public Service comes in handy in ensuring that the functionality in terms of the administrative functions of the Office of the President is undertaken in a sacrosanct manner, in a way that ensures government is working in a very seamless manner. When you go to the second role of this office is that he has an overarching mandate over all public entities. And colleagues, what do we mean when we say public entities? Public entities refers to any body or organization where public funds, procurement, in provision of services, in provision of goods or works are undertaken, or an office where public records are held, or the performance of public functions are undertaken. And with that, our respective schools falls squarely within the definition of the public entities. So it is the mandate of the Chief of Staff and the Head of Public Service to ensure that these public entities are run in an efficient manner, and services are rendered in a timely manner. And again, this is done at the behest of the president when it comes to the supervision of this particular function. And this function again is done to ensure that the government is working in a proper manner, and services are rendered to the citizens in the highest possible attainable standards. The third high-level function of the Office of the Chief of Staff and the Head of Public Service colleagues is the promotion of ethics, good governance, efficiency, and effectiveness in the provision of services through deployment of the rightful skills, values, and leadership in the Kenyan public service. Kenya is lucky to have a huge pool of talent in terms of the skills that have been imparted, which is done, these skills start from the respective schools that we are. So it is the mandate of the Chief of Staff and the Head of Public Service to ensure that these skills are put in the rightful places. And this mandate, it does it in conjunction with all other public entities, all other institutions are within the government, so that he ensures that there's no teacher who's being put to a place where he's expected to do plumbing services. There is no lawyer who's expected to do statistician service or become an economist. So he ensures that there is fit for purpose in terms of the placement of talent and skill set within the entire public service. The fourth function of this office, colleagues, is the transmittal of the executive directives, that is the orders and proclamations that have been done by the president, to ensure that all these proclamations and directives are given to the entire public service for information, implementation, and further action, so that everything that is said or done is not said in vain. The fifth function of this office is the transmittal of policy advisories by way of circulars throughout the public service. And this goes hand in hand in ensuring there is overall effectiveness within the public service. So please move to the next slide. Now, just to set context in why we are here this morning, we shall be highlighting 4 issues that will be the running theme for this virtual engagement this morning. And these issues will be revolving around the strengthening of governance within our secondary schools in the entire country. This is done noting that we are custodians and trustees of education within the country. The number one issue that we thought we needed to have addressed is the government representation through the Board of Management. Colleagues, we all understand that the Board of Management are not just any other informal community committees. They are legal governance organs established under the Basic Education Act of 2013, and with particular reference to Section 55. When you go to Section 55, you see the establishment of these boards of management. And when you need to check the composition, which we are aware, but once we are done with this virtual engagement, please make reference to it as well, just to check the composition, because we had a challenge when we were trying to register members of this BOM to these virtual sessions, which posed the challenge: is all our board of management properly composed? Please, let's make reference to Section 56 of the Basic Education Act 2013 to be able to confirm that indeed our board of management are properly and constituted as the law envisages. And when you look at the functionalities of these boards of management, this is clearly enumerated under Section 59 of the Basic Education Act. and it is very elaborate because it provides about 20 functions in which these boards of management are supposed to play within our different institutions. So in a sense, these boards of management represents the authority of government within our different schools, as the BOM members are supposed to be the custodians of public interest, because they come in handy in the safeguarding of the public resources, the policy implementation by the government, and accountability in the school administration, as every decision taken by the board should be able to reflect the government policy, the legality, and public accountability, not personal or local interest for that matter. The second high-level issue that is the theme of this conversation this morning is that the separation of roles. The separation of roles between the board of management and the principal and the principals, the principals and the school of the school management. There's been a major governance challenge in many secondary schools, which arose from the confusion of roles, and there must be a clear demarcation and separation of these roles between the board of management and the schools. As I've stated earlier, colleagues, the roles of the board of management is clearly enumerated under Section 59, which provides for the roles, and the board of management is responsible for the policy oversight, financial accountability, and strategic decisions in our secondary schools. And they in turn monitor the compliance with the government policies and ensuring there's proper utilization and uses of public resources. The board does not run the day-to-day affairs of our institutions, and this role is left to the principals and the school of management, as the principal acts as the head of the institution, and the principal and the teachers are responsible for the academic leadership. They are responsible to the day-to-day management, as I've said, and the discipline of and the learning processes and implementation of the policies at the level of now interacting with the teachers. So these roles, when they are mixed up, you find that we have conflicts and inefficiency, which will eventually arise because of the conflict between undertaking this mandate. The third high-level issue that we thought it is important to highlight is the avoiding of the micromanagement by the boards of management. One of the most common governance issue, again, colleagues, is that we've received complaints on the problems of boards attempting to micromanage schools, and an example being the interference with the daily teaching schedules by the different BOMs, the BOMs directing teachers on what they need to do on the classroom matters, handling of the students' discipline when it has not been escalated to the level of the different of the board, and the management of the procurement without following procedure. And what happens when this is brought to the fore, colleagues? There is the professionalism is undermined. We have a school leadership becoming weakened because you find that they do not trust themselves because of the micromanagement of these different boards, and conflicts between now the boards and the management. Now, what are we saying as a rallying call, colleagues, is that the boards must focus on the oversight and not the operations. The operation is left to the principals and the management. The fourth issue is the strengthening of the government governance capacity. Many board members join with good intentions from the onset, but the limited governance training brings about the issue of gaps. And we should be able to embrace technology. Like in this session, we had registration of more than 100,000 people. So we should be able to embrace technology in conducting these governance skill gaps, so that we ensure all of us are in a position to be able to address the financial oversight, to be able to address the legal responsibility under the Basic Education Act. We'll be able to address the governance best practices, and eventually address the issue of the conflict of interest that has come to the fore so many times. So strong boards, in a sense, contribute to us in a significant way to a strong institution. A strong secondary school, you'll find that it only is able to be a strong institution once the board is in place. So let's all embrace technology to be able to harness the trainings, and let's not entirely rely on the physical meetings to be able to address these gaps. So as a call for responsibility on the good leadership, we hope that we can be able to attain effective school governance as everyone plays their different roles, so that we ensure the boards must govern, the principal must manage, the teachers must teach, and government must ultimately provide policy direction and oversight when we are undertaking this mandate. So when each of the entity performs their functions properly, the result is a stable, high-performing school environment, and which will in turn ensure that we've set up the right foundation for all our learners. Thank you very much for giving me a listening ear.
Dr. Sugut. Thank you very much, Collins, for the presentation that you've just that sets the context for this meeting. I would want to welcome Dr. William Sugut to be able to make his presentation from the State Department for Basic Education. And as he comes on, I do wish to apologize to our colleagues who require the sign language services. We're trying to address that. And we hope that we shall be able to overcome that challenge shortly, but we are really trying to address that. So Dr. William Sugut, welcome, and to make your presentation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Linda. Thank you very much, Dr. Linda. Head of Public Service, Honorable Felix Koskei, our PS Basic Education, Ambassador Professor Bitok, the Chair of the Commission, Dr. Jamlek Muturi, the CEO, Teacher Service Commission, senior government officials who are here in this meeting, our dear participants, I wish you a good morning. I wish to address the question of the policy and regulatory framework for public secondary schools education in Kenya. And this presentation will focus on 4 areas. We just want to highlight the legal foundation that is governing public secondary schools in Kenya. And then we look at the key policy instruments that are guiding the management of schools. We will also look at the roles and responsibilities of education stakeholders, and finally be able to look at accountability and compliance expectations in public service. As we may be aware, the Constitution of Kenya gives room for education, and the Constitution 2010 is very keen on that. And the key articles include Article 43, which gives the right to education, and Article 53 gives the provisions for every child to have a right to free and compulsory basic education. And our basic education in the 844 system was from pre-primary to Form 4, and now in the competence-based education from pre-primary to grade 12. That is basic education. We are also alive to the fact that Article 10 gives the national values and principles of governance, which definitely will help us ensure that we are a civilized society. Article 232 gives values and principles of public service, and therefore public secondary schools are required to operate within the constitutional obligations to provide equitable and quality education. Now, in terms of the legal framework, I know we are aware. I just want to give a highlight that what guides us in management of secondary education is Basic Education 2013, the Teacher Service Commission Act of 2012, the Public Finance Management Act of 2012, the Public Procurement and Assets Disposal Act of 2015, the Leadership and Integrity Act of 2012, the Public Audit Act of 2015, and that these laws are meant actually to regulate governance, financial management, procurement, staffing, and accountability. In more detail, the Basic Education Act is the primary legal framework for the school management, and it establishes the boards of management with governance structures in schools, regulations of institutions, responsibilities of the ministry, protection of the rights of the children, and all this is meant to ensure that the disciplinary processes, the financial management, and institutions are accountable. We should also be alive to the question of sessional paper number 1 of 2019, which highlighted 2 key issues, particularly with secondary education, in terms of 100% transition. And it is good to have all our children transit to secondary for them to complete basic education. And 2, the question of free day secondary education, so as to be able to complete access and complete their studies. And then the competency-based education and training framework, which now shifts to skills. Of course, we are alive to the NESEP, the National Education Sector Plan, which runs from 2023 to 2027, with very clear strategic goals for access, equity, excellence, governance, and cross-cutting issues. We are also alive to the fact that His Excellency the President did establish the Presidential Working Party on Education Reform to be able to streamline the competence-based education and issues of curriculum, assessment, and even domiciling of junior school as was done. The Ministry of Education, as we are aware, is of course responsible for the policy formulation and oversight. The Teacher Service Commission is in charge of the management and discipline of teachers. And the Kenya National Examination Council and KICD are in charge of the assessment of assessments and curriculum development, respectively. The boards of management at the school level handle the governance issues, the financial oversight and accountability, and the county education boards, of course, with the county directors of education as their secretaries, are responsible for coordinating the management at the county levels. One more important thing, ladies and gentlemen, is that as stewards, boards of management and senior officers who are in charge of finance, procurement, and audit are expected to combat any challenges of graft, uphold evidence-based governance, and they are to ensure that the directives that are given are complied with. In terms of governance of public secondary schools, we have indicated clearly that the ministry is in charge of policy, Teacher Service Commission is in charge of recruitment, deployment, and discipline. And then the boards of management should be able to provide that oversight, including employment of the teaching staff. The school administration is in charge of the daily management of schools, and therefore there is need for effective coordination among school actors to ensure that quality education is delivered. Just to touch on a few key roles of the principal, because we normally say the principal is the school and the school is the principal. One key role is to ensure that he or she organizes and manages the approved school curriculum. Number 2, the management and control of school finances and stores. 3, the management and motivation of human resources in both teaching and non-teaching staff. And management and maintenance of the school plant equipment. And in terms of management and maintenance of the school plant and teaching of subjects of specialization. because the principal again is a teacher. Let me now look at a few functions of the Board of Management. I know my brother has already touched on Section 59, but it's important again today to emphasize that the board is a body corporate that can sue and can be sued. But key functions include promoting the best interests of the institution and ensure its development. And so the example that was given by my brother, you cannot be a board member in an institution and you are talking ill about that institution. So it's important to take care of that. 2 is to promote quality education for all pupils or learners in accordance with the standards set in the Act and any other written law. Then ensure the provision of proper and adequate physical facilities for the institution. The board members are expected to manage the institution's affairs, of course, in accordance with the rules and regulations governing the occupational safety and health, and then advise the County Education Board on issues of staffing. In terms of financial accountability in schools, the public secondary schools are expected to manage significant public resources. Key among them include capitation management, what the government sends to institutions as grants in terms of capitation, issues of procurement procedures. We are aware that now we have shifted to e-procurement, and that what is important is to stick to the procedures of procurement so that you do the right thing, but using the right method. Then budget preparation and approval is also critical for us to be able to ensure that we stay on board in terms of all these. Financial reporting and auditing, of course, is very important. We are aware that now the emphasis is on zero-fold audit. And one critical thing that needs to happen here is proper documentation and accountability of the various records that will help ensure that what has been used is well documented. Then, therefore, institutions must strictly adhere to the Public Finance Management Act and public procurement laws. In terms of ethical and professional conduct, school leaders and education officers, therefore, are public officers, and they are expected to uphold, among other things, 1, integrity in public service, transparency and accountability, respect the rule of law, professional conduct in management of institutions, and that these obligations, of course, arise from the Constitution, the Leadership and Integrity Act, and the public service values. The emerging policy priorities then, with regard to secondary education, is the implementation of competency-based education. We are aware that we have been running 4 classes in secondary, that is from 1 through from 4. But now with the shift to CBE, we're going to have grade 10 through grade 12. And therefore, that's something we should be alive to. We should also be alive to the fact that we are transitioning to pathways in senior school. And the pathways are 3. That is STEM and social sciences and arts and sports. And in the current class of grade 10, we have already placed 51% of the learners in STEM, 38% in social sciences, and 10% in arts and sports. We are also supposed to look at expansion of access and equity in education. And what is critical, and we are grateful for this meeting, is to strengthen governance and financial accountability. And then alignment of education to national development goals. And these reforms therefore require strong leadership at the institutional level. You remember the key thing in competence-based education is to ensure that the citizens who come out of this education system are engaged, empowered, and more importantly, ethical. The expectations then of school leaders is that boards of management and school administrators are expected to ensure compliance with laws and policies, then promote integrity in management of public resources, and resources will always be scarce, hence the need to manage them prudently. Safeguard the rights and welfare of learners. We need to ensure that the learners are comfortable, they are safe, and they are well guided. Support implementation of national education reforms. We therefore must be able to put our best foot forward to ensure that we do this. Leadership at the school level determines the success of the education system. So what happens in the institutions is very, very important. The policy, therefore, and regulatory framework exists to ensure access to quality education, efficient use of public resources, accountability in school governance, and then alignment of education with national development. And all education stakeholders, therefore, are asked to work together, of course, to uphold the law, to strengthen the institutions, and more importantly, deliver quality education to every learner in Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, we do not rely on anybody else. It is our responsibility to ensure that we do our best so that our education system can be the best in this country, that others can benchmark. We need to lead the way. We need to have the willingness to be able to do it. Asanteni sana.
Thank you, Dr. Sugut. For that presentation, I promptly call the acting chairperson, secretary, stroke CEO, or the acting commission secretary, CEO of the Teacher Service Commission, Madam Evelyn Mitei, to be able to make her brief presentation so that we can then move on the rest of the program. Thank you very much.
Head of Public Service, Honorable Felix Koskei, Principal
Madam
Secretary.
Mitei, kindly unmute your microphone. We're not hearing you.
It's unmuted. You can hear me now, Linda?
We're not hearing you.
Wow.
Now we can hear you.
You can, okay, thank you, Alex.
Thank you, we can now hear you.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service, Honorable Felix Koskei, Principal Secretary for Basic Education, Ambassador Professor Julius Bitok, the Commission Chairman, Dr. Jamlek Muturi, our distinguished colleagues from the Executive Office of the President, as well as the State Department of Basic Education, the field officers from both the Ministry of Education and the Teacher Service Commission, the chairpersons and members of boards of management, all principals, all deputy principals from secondary schools, all heads of finance, accounts, procurement, and internal audit. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Allow me to take this opportunity to appreciate all the BOMs, all the principals, and all the deputy principals for joining this webinar. As you've been told, it's one of its kind, and this actually sends a strong message to all of us that we must all be techno-savvy, and I appreciate that effort that all of you made to be able to be here. My presentation this morning is on operating environment for the teacher. And I'll start by outlining the role of the Teacher Service Commission. The Teacher Service Commission has been given the role of registration, recruitment, and employment of teachers assigning teachers in public schools or institutions, to promote and transfer teachers, exercise disciplinary control over the teachers, terminate employment of teachers, as well as review the standards of education and training for persons entering the teaching service. We review also the demand and supply for teachers, and we advise the national government on matters relating to the teaching profession. A few statistics on the current workforce of the teachers in Kenya. We have a total of 213,536 primary school teachers. We have 106 201 junior school teachers and 132,335 teachers in senior school. This goes a long way to show that Kenya has a large and expanding teaching workforce, which supports the implementation of the competency-based education system. Allow me now to deal with the legal environment, the operating environment under which we operate. And our first legal instrument, of course, is the Constitution. And I don't want to belabor this. My colleague from the ministry has dealt with Article 10 of the Constitution on national values and principles of governance, which requires all of us to be patriotic, to exercise national unity, transparency, accountability, and good governance. In addition, we have Article 232 on the principles, on the values and principles of public service, which every public officer is expected to adhere to. And of course, we have Chapter 6 on leadership and integrity. And it gives us quite a number of responsibilities. How do we manage public resources? How do we conduct ourselves as leaders at various levels? The other instrument is the TSC Act, which outlines the compliance with the teaching standards. How do we undertake curriculum delivery? How do we supervise the implementation of the curriculum, which is a key role of our principals, supported by the deputy principals. It also outlines the maintenance of ethical standards. Our conduct must be in line with the values as espoused in the two articles of the Constitution, Article 10 and Article 232, and more importantly, the tenets of governance, of good governance that is outlined in those two articles. The TSC Act also expects all our teachers to uphold professional ethics and standards. We, as teachers, you're expected to give, to ensure appropriate conduct for both you and your teachers, to ensure that we conduct ourselves in a proper manner that befits the teaching service. We must conduct ourselves with a lot of professionalism. The TSC Act also expects us to uphold the best interest of the learners. And this is in terms of their protection, their safety, and their right to education. The next instrument, of course, is the Code of Regulation for Teachers, which gives the general rules of conduct. It defines how each and every teacher should conduct themselves, what is expected, and of course it outlines the administrative functions that are expected of every teacher. It also outlines the procedures and processes that we must use while undertaking our duties. In addition, the Code of Regulation gives us the terms and conditions of service. It defines what are the terms of conditions of service that all the teachers are operating within. So compliance with the COR for teachers is a key to our success, and all that we do, we must be in compliance with the provisions of this act. The final instrument, of course, is the Code of Conduct and Ethics for Teachers, which sets out the expected ethical behavior, both in and outside the work environment. It anchors the need to maintain high standards of professionalism, integrity, accountability in public service. It also anchors the principle of duty of care to our learners. That is a role that is very critical and important, because we are entrusted with learners in this country, and our role as principals and deputy principals is to ensure that we protect the learners, their safety should be ensured, and even when administering disciplinary action, we should follow the laid down procedures. The Code of Conduct also gives us a duty to maintain and uphold the nobility of the teaching profession. So whatever we do as teachers, it must reflect the highest levels of professionalism. Within the school environment, the operating school environment, the teacher is the lead educator. The principal particularly is the #1 teacher, who combines all the roles that are within the school environment, including teaching, including being the financial managers, ensuring proper utilization of all resources within the school, including the teachers. They are the supervisors of the other teachers and ensure they are properly utilized. They are the coach, they are the counselor. So the principal, with the help of the deputy, is supposed to ensure that a school runs on a day-to-day basis within the legal framework that has been established. The teacher and the principal and the deputies also are the lead implementers of government policy. Whatever policy that is passed by government, they are the ones to ensure that it is implemented and supervise its implementation. As school leaders also, you have a duty to the stakeholders. You are the people to manage the parents, the leaders, the communities around your schools. To ensure that you effectively undertake these duties, the commission supports you through continuous professional development, continuous training, especially pedagogical training, to ensure that teachers have the requisite knowledge, they have mastery of content, and that they are able to deliver the curriculum as expected. We also do teacher performance management as a governance issue to measure what you do, and does what you do have meaningful impact, and does it have positive outcomes to our learners? As part of taking care of your welfare, the Commission has also provided healthcare insurance services to ensure your welfare. Because a healthier teaching service is a critical success factor, and that is why we have provided that benefit. We have also undertaken various wellness initiatives, such as mental health education, teacher support programs, such as teacher induction, mentorship, and coaching. And in this, we do it to ensure that all teachers are ready to impact 21st century skills to our learners. In what we do, we also do it in collaboration with in collaboration and partnership with many stakeholders. We do this with international organizations, including donor and development partners, such as the World Bank. We work very closely with the Ministry of Education. We work very closely with the Institute of Curriculum Development, Kenya National Examination Council, the Kenya Institute of Special Education to ensure inclusive education, and Kenya Education Management Institute in terms of capacity building. So the purpose of this is basically to ensure that collaboration ensures effective curriculum delivery and quality education. I wish to state that Kenya has made significant progress in strengthening the teaching profession in terms of the milestones that we've achieved, including recruitment of additional 100,000 teachers. Also, major investments have been made in teacher recruitment, promotions, and general teacher welfare. And we believe that continued collaboration and investment are necessary to address teacher shortages and the challenges that arise from time to time. And we want to appreciate our teachers across the country for their dedication and commitment in service delivery to our learners. And we emphasize that you need to continue safeguarding learner safety and well-being in our learning institutions, in addition to teaching. Your commitment continues to shape national development through education. You are expected to uphold constitutional values of integrity, accountability, transparency, and good governance at all times, and ensure prudent stewardship of public resources entrusted to the institutions, including finances, learners, infrastructure, learning materials, and so on and so forth. So with that, I wish you all the best, and I wish to urge you to remain exemplary public officers and role models to our learners. Thank you very much.
You want to introduce me first?
Thank you very much, Madam Mitei from the Teacher Service Commission for that very, very good presentation that sets the context again from the perspective of the Teacher Service Commission. Before I welcome my colleague, Dr. Patrick Omutia, who's the Special Secretary, Productivity in the Office of the Chief of Staff and Head of the Public Service, to make his presentation, I wish to register and recognize many who have joined us since we began. We see representation all the way from Moyale to Kilifi, Namanga to Busia, Narok to Kitui. We see representation from the entire country. As a matter of fact, we see representation from all the secondary schools that we attended. I'm sure that the principal secretary, the principal of the secondary school he attended is in this meeting, as well as that of the Chief of Staff and Head of the Public Service. And we welcome you very warmly to this meeting.
Yes, they are there.
Thank you. For those who are joining us on YouTube, we see your presence in huge numbers. And I just want to repeat that, could you kindly introduce yourself by stating your name, your designation, and the school that you're in, as well as the county, so that other members who are within the group can also interact with you and we can be able to register their attendance. I want to also say that the PS, State Department for Basic Education, as well as the TSC and the Chief of Staff and Head of the Public Service all have social media handles. And we're asking that you subscribe so that when they have information from these institutions that is relevant to teachers, you can be able to follow, and you can also be able to get updates from all these entities with respect to things that are going on. So now I welcome Dr. Omutia to make his presentation to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, the Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service, the PS, Ambassador Professor Talk, all chairpersons, and all protocols observed. As I wait for my presentation to be shown, good. Sure. This presentation is on the mental wellness and how it impacts on our productivity. But to set the context of this presentation, we need to note a few things. And this is picked from the reports that have been released in the recent past. One of the issues that bedevils us as a citizenry is that citizens perceive corruption and inefficiency in public entities. And this is what you get from the Transparency International report of 2024, and also back home here, a report by the EACC of the National Ethics and Corruption Survey of 2024 still also talks about perceived level of corruption, and in particular bribery. In fact, they paint a very grim picture in the sense that bribery in the last survey actually increased from the then 25% to 30%. And this is even prevalent in the common, they found it was also common in the education sector, in matters of posting, matters of recruitment, or even admission, and many other things within the supply chain. The other issue that we are confronted with is that the head of public service has echoed a number of times the need for agility in the provision of service, because we now live in an age where digitalization is a norm, climate change is here with us, and there is a shift in the demographics. The children that were during my earlier age, we used to be caned to do things, but these days you cannot dare to do that, because the demographics that we deal with today is that learners have to be treated differently. But the most significant issue relevant to today's presentation is that the Ministry of Health in 2023 did a report on the nature of the well-being in the civil service, where they noted that 60% of us public servants report mental health challenges, citing issues of stress, that is the imbalance between our expectations and our ability to respond. They also cited financial strain. We are all not only workers, we are also parents, and we have multiple needs. So there is a conflict between available resources and the demands in society. And the other is related to workload. We all know that there are shortages of staff in the teaching profession as it is in any other place. So issues of workload become key, that sometimes workload impacts negatively on our well-being. Following that, they documented that the country loses 62.5 billion annually. And this one, it is not in terms of what you would call health costs, but this loss arises from the reduced workload performance. For example, if people are absent, that is loss of work. If people present are at work, but do not deliver as expected, they are only present, but not delivering. Or if they are exhausted, those are the kind of, if you cost that, it is 62.2 billion, which is equivalent to financing 10 counties, or a colossal amount of the budget that your ministry would require. And put globally, the world will lose $1 trillion US according to WHO data in 2025. Now, turning to that, because of such losses, we also now come to the issue of productivity. Because when you look at productivity as related to mental wellness, the ILO in 2025 reported that the labor productivity ranking of our country is that we are 142 out of 182 globally, which means we are really at the tail end. While in Africa, we are 21 out of 52, which means somewhere lost in the middle. Which means that if we are not as productive, then we cannot grow the wealth that we talk about in the Vision 2030. However, that is not the dark side of it. On the brighter side, when we look at the multi-factor productivity ranking, the recent survey or report by the Institute of Management Development, a Switzerland-based organization, last year reported good news for us, that now on multi-factor, we are 56th globally. And surprisingly, and for good cause, we are the first in Africa. So it means we are on the right track. And this first has largely been brought about by the improved efficiency of government services through the digitalization and the actions we have done in making ease of doing business. Next. Having set the context, I now want to introduce the subject matter. And this is that we as public officers actually are living interface between citizens, including our learners, and government, that is the state. So that whenever we talk about reforms in the public service, it requires more than institutional restructuring. It demands more of mindset transformation. And this is the purpose of this presentation. So you as educators, you have a duty to provide mind education, which is actually what provides the what and why. Having done that, then we transfer our concern to mental awareness. That is how this translates into productivity outcomes. On the foundations of mental mindset transformation, we do note that for us to have a right mindset, and which contributes to national development, we need to have a constructive mindset as a seed for reforms. Also, we need to have life-altering mindset, that is a transformative thinking, which enables officers such as yourselves to see reforms as possible. Not all the time to lament that, oh, things are getting bad. Just have a positive mindset and all will be fine. Mbele itakuwa sawa. Now, we also are required to embrace custodianship of public good, because in the education sector, particularly public education, that is a public good. And therefore, we are custodians of such public good. Also, we live in a community. And in the true African sense, we normally say, I am because we are. So that mental wellness thrives in community, not in isolation. So that as educators, apart from us being with our learners, we are also role models in society. So that when we interact with the parents and others, we are actually there to see that we transmit the notion of wellness in community. Now, turning on to a few definitions, because when we talk about mental wellness, we actually mean that feeling of balance, resilience, and fulfillment in life, which goes beyond just thinking about mental illness. So when I'm talking about mental here, we are talking about different concepts. That is the mind, the mindset, wellness, and little about illness, because I am not a medical doctor. So I will stick to the terrain of the medical. But more important is that this is important in the sense that it enables us to cope with stress, realize our abilities to maintain a healthy relationship, and also to contribute positively to our community. And we note that a mind simply is that faculty of ourselves that enables us to think, feel, perceive, imagine, remember, and to will. And all of you who believe that you are created by your maker do understand that we always say that you love your maker with all your mind, body, and spirit. Because without the control, the pureness of the mind, you are bound to run into problems. Now, relating the mind to productivity, it means that productivity is seen as an attitude of the mind. That is, that belief in human progress, that yesterday, today is better than yesterday, and tomorrow will be better than today. And a simple notion of indicating that we do more with less. And to us as government and yourselves all as governors, it is the glue that will enable us to achieve our better agenda. Now, when we have an imbalance that is mental unwellness, the impact of it is that we have burnout in the workplace. There is absenteeism, presenteeism, as I have already mentioned, and emotional exhaustion, which has an impact in reducing the service delivery efficiency. And as I've already mentioned that we need to love with all our heart, it means that to have a healing of emotional wounds and strengthening of resilience directly counteracts burnout and fatigue. That is why in schools and institutions that you learn, that you have, other than what the TSC mentioned, that all of you health teachers are counselors, you also need the services of other faith counselors through the chaplaincy services that I believe most schools ought to have, so that you rely on the chaplaincy services. Added to that is that mind education cultivates a deep reflection, accurate self-discovery, and thinking competence. And my message to you in the education sector is that it is extremely important that we need at this stage, other than the mind education, to move beyond simply inculcating rules to our learners. Also, we need to inculcate problem solving and innovation skills. In the few countries we have visited that have taken the issue of productivity seriously, it is imperative that they inculcate the teaching on productivity right at the onset. They do that at the kindergarten and at every school level. And even at the TVETs, every course, there will be an introduction about productivity, even if you are doing some technical aspects. So it is also the way in which we appeal to the education sector to have productivity training inculcated at every level, right from the kindergarten all the way up to university level. Next. It is important that to have self-control and discipline, because if this enables the tackling of unchecked desires such as addiction, to substance abuse, alcohol and substance abuse, and also crimes that are prevalent time and again, that you find that these days we are having hardly a week or a month passes when you hear that certain public servants have either swept the entire family and finally they also kill themselves. Why? Because of the heightened level of stress. So that for that reason, it is our appeal that you need to embed wellness indicators in order to be able to reduce the incidence of absenteeism and presenteeism. Also, this thing, there's some interruption on the screen. I have this thing here. Sorry, I have some interruption on the screen. Okay. The next. Yeah. So they are sorting out some technical issue. The next. Next. So, what are the risks if the issue of wellness is not addressed? One of the basic risks is that there will be rising incidents of absenteeism, burnout, poor morale, and erosion of trust. Also, there will be incidents of social ramification such as stigma and isolation, and hence the need for bringing compassion into our workplaces. Because when we neglect mindset and wellness, it undermines our state of being able to handle reforms smoothly and also bring about national competitiveness. And as His Excellency the President has indicated time and again, particularly from the last Jamhuri address, that we are on the journey to realizing our Singapore dream. And what do we mean by the Singapore dream? It is simply our transition from our current state of lower middle to the first world. And what does that mean to us who are assembled here today? It means that from a governance point of view, we need to have strong institutions. And strong institutions is ensuring that the governance systems in our schools are indeed functional and working. And as mentioned earlier, the ESCC reports points to the high incidence of corruption. And therefore, if we need to be in the first world, we must be able to combat and reduce corruption, if not eliminate it. That is the way to the first world, having a disciplined governance to deal with those issues of institutional strength and corruption. Also, we need to have a high quality of life. We need to have good education. And I know that a lot is being done in this way in ensuring that every other person gets the desired education. The other issue which we are happy that 2 days ago, His Excellency the President signed into law the infrastructure financing fund. And that is important because for us to have to go to transition to the first world, we need to have modern and efficient educational facilities so that there is uniformity across the board. And also we need to inculcate into our learners that our focus is to eliminate unemployment. And you only eliminate unemployment if we are able to transition the nature of our economy, which relies on agriculture as the mainstay, to be able to progress from agro-process nature of industrialization to other forms of industrialization, particularly the high-tech. That is what assures us to have high levels of income. For example, to be in the advanced world, you have to have, our current GDP per capita is 2,500. And to be in the first world, we need to move that tenfold to about 40,000 US dollar. Next. Now, what do we recommend as a result of this? That we need to embed wellness indicators in our reporting frameworks. And once we begin to gather these indicators, it means what gets measured gets done. And we should be able to map this on regional basis so that you are able to have alerts on where the risks are high and be able to deal with it. We also need to institutionalize mind education and mindset training, including, as I did mention earlier, productivity management technologies alongside our wellness programs. Also, we need to align with the Ministry of Health Wellness workplace wellness guidelines that were issued in 2023, alongside also our better agenda, so that the education system, right from the onset, understands what is the development trajectory of the country. The other issue is that we need to foster what is Ubuntu or humanity system, whereby we have peer and community support, including faith-based resilience practices. And finally, we need to know how to manage our own stress. Because if we do not manage our own stress, we run into trouble. So when we do this if we implement these recommendations, these are the likely outcomes: that we shall have improved service delivery efficiency, we shall have strengthened community trust. Thirdly, we shall reduce the economic losses from burnout and presentism. Fourthly, we shall align with our country's productivity agenda, which is the glue to achieving our better, and also the WHO benchmark. And finally, we shall have a resilient, innovative, and ethical public service. In conclusion, next, that is, having a transformation of the public officer's mind is a seed from which every reform will grow. It makes the governance that we all who are assembled here today become a living covenant between the state and the people whom we lead, either the learners and the community, and also ensure that our policies are realizable. That mental well-being is indeed central to the productivity of, to our productivity. And finally, it means that we will be able to safeguard our governance efficiency and be able to live the kind of quality of life that we promise in our Vision 2030. I thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Omutia. I think you can see us shuffling between different persons from the same machine, in the same way that we requested you to also arrange to be able to follow this meeting from one source in order to be able to leverage on, the opportunities there are to work together. We've also done the same. So we are also, some of us, seated in different places and using the same machine. So when you see us shuffling about, just understand that we were trying to do our best to make this meeting a success. Dr. Omutia, there are several questions that have come in relation to mental health wellness. We have people who are saying, how can, how is the ministry addressing the issue of workload to avoid mental illness brought by workload vis-a-vis production? We have another question that has been raised where a member is asking, how can the counselors be involved in the schools, yet they have been barred from going to the schools? Perhaps this is something that the State Department for Basic Education and TSC will be able to pick up specifically from this point on. I also want to bring to the attention of a gentleman called Mr. Dionysius Mwaniki, who has written Please recognize our student reps. Some of them are in attendance. You're aware that student reps are also members of the boards of management, and is asking that this should be brought to the attention of the group, or should they be asked to go back to class. Mr. Mwaniki and all student leaders who are in this meeting, by reason of the fact that you're in boards of management, you are, when we called out the boards of management, you are part of them, but we do want to, again, especially recognize your participation in these forums and ask you to continue to attend this meeting, because it's important that your voice is heard during those board of management meetings. Following on, I remind you that we would be interested to see pictures of all of you sat where you are following this program. And I remind you of the social media handles of the Chief of Staff and Head of the Public Service is Felix Koskei on Facebook, Felix Koskei on X, Felix Koskei on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. You can see that the Chief of Staff and Head of the Public Service has endeavored to be able to meet you in all these spaces. The same with the Principal Secretary, the same with the Teacher Service Commission, of which my co-moderator is going to be able to read out the handles. And so we continue to ask you to subscribe, follow, because these are the forums that will be used to be able to reach you. Now, I also want to raise the issue that during the registration process for this meeting, there was we recorded numbers poorly from the members of the boards of management. And we were informed that quite a number may not be having email addresses or they're not on the mtandao. But we are pleased to see today that we have had quite a big representation, both on Zoom and on YouTube. And we continue to hope that going forward from today, that this is going to be the way we do business, that each one shall have an email address, that the Board of Management will continue to leverage on technology to be able to do their work, so that we can be able to do even better for our schools. So at this point, I will be requesting my colleague, Madam Susan Oyatsi, FCPA Susan Oyatsi, to come and make her presentation. And as she does so, we do wish the members in this forum who profess the Muslim faith, Mubarak Ramadan. We are, of course, cognizant of the fact that this is a holy month for you, and we wish you well during this period. So, Susan Oyatsi, thank you.
Answer all the questions, right?
Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service, all protocols observed. Good morning, everybody. My names are FCPA Susan Oyatsi, and I'm a former teacher, having taught for 6 years. My TSC number is 304136. So actually, I'm talking to my colleagues. Very, very exciting to network together. So I'll be very, very brief, because when you have colleagues talking with, you can easily go over time. Go to the next slide. Our teaching profession is a very, very important profession. You nurture our children at a very formative stage at the secondary school when they are trying to discover themselves. And all has come out from the speakers, from the TSC, and the Director of Education has all told us what you are supposed to do. And as teachers, you are proud, because even the second president of this country was a teacher. So you are very, very important people. But now I go to my line of my subject matter today on zero fault. I'll quickly go through just the definition, and some of the slides I will not go through because you will read them at your own time. Please make time to read the slides. They're very, very important. So I go to the definition of what is zero fault audit that the head of public service has been campaigning. It is all about not attracting a single audit query from the Office of the Auditor General. You are aware as secondary schools, you are audited. You are aware you have schools audit, but then the Auditor General comes to audit. There are circulars and manuals and the PFM that you are supposed to follow. I know you could be a senior, a chief principal, a senior principal, a principal, but your subject matter is chemistry, biology, Kiswahili, and what have you. But for the purpose, you wear two hats. You are the accounting officer of the school. So you also handle the money matters, and you are supposed to follow the PFM Act. Whether you teach chemistry, whether you teach biology, you have to know the PFM Act. Next. Next slide. The reason why the head of public service was very keen on why he initiated this campaign is because he wants to prevent rather than react. There are very many issues that I will go to. I will not go into one by one. I will just speak the ones that are important, or the ones that I have observed, because I have been a teacher, I have been a parent, and all my children have been in public schools. So I know some of what goes on in public schools, some of the habits that we should stop, and even the auditor has pointed them out. Next. So I will quickly go to this slide, spend a little time on it. And these slides, I'm talking to maybe business education teachers. Myself, I was a business education teacher. But we know we are all from all sectors of the education. So these are the opinions that you are given by the Auditor General. And I want to use a very simple example. Having been a teacher, when you want your students to understand, you use the examples that they relate to. So the example I want to use here is the hospital example, so that we all understand we have either been sick or we have visited people in hospital. So when the auditor gives you the opinion, and the opinion is a disclaimer opinion, I want to liken it with somebody who is in ICU. And you know the person who is in ICU is critically sick. So if your institution gets that kind of opinion, and then that is alerting to you, Mwalimu, a chief principal or senior principal or principal, that is alerting because you are the accounting officer. The opinion could also be adverse. Adverse, you are in HDU, you are equally sick, critically sick. You need to do something on the finance side of your school. If you are given a qualified audit opinion, please don't confuse that it is good because of the word qualified. It is actually a bad audit opinion. You are sick, but not very sick. You are not in ICU, you are not in HDU, but you are not in the normal ward. But you are sick, you are in hospital, you are unwell, and there are material issues that you are supposed to attend to. If it is unqualified, unqualified is a clean audit report. It is a report that you will even enjoy a cup of tea in a restaurant and laugh with your friends. And I will quickly go through some of the reports that we have. Go to the next slide. The next slide. So on the screen, we have a 3-year overview of audit opinions that have come from secondary schools. Head of public service, you can see from the screen, there are about 400, 200 schools. It doesn't mean that those schools did not submit their financial statements to the Auditor General. What it means is the Auditor General is overwhelmed. There are over 9,000 secondary schools. So the Auditor General has done a sample, and this is the sample that he has audited in 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024. The ones that year that has just ended, 2025, is still, the Auditor General is still working on those financial statements. You appreciate the office is thin, so is not able to do all the 9,000, and the audit scope for the Auditor General is very, very large. So we have 17 schools in 2021 that got adverse, so they were in HDU. One school was in ICU, and 402 schools were in the normal ward, and 6 schools were having tea at the restaurant. They got clean audit reports. The year which followed was June 2022. We had 16 schools in ICU, 1 school in HDU, and in the normal ward, we had 404 schools, and we had 5 schools in the restaurant. 2023, the number reduced on adverse. At least we had some schools that moved from the ICU. Maybe they went even to the restaurant. We had 14 schools, and then we had 2 schools in HDU and 406, and then 5 schools. This is a sample. This is not all the audit scope for the Auditor General. Then 2024, it's like there's something that is not going on right, because we had nobody at the restaurant. All of them, the sample that the auditor took, all of them are in the ward, they are sick. And then we had 2 in ICU. Head of Public Service, I'm happy to announce that the Auditor General is working with the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya to delegate so that they help her in auditing, because the audit scope is very, very wide. All she requires is to get money from Parliament if it's allocated to her. Then she will be able to audit every school with the practitioners of ISPAC. Next. Now, there are cross-cutting issues, and I will not go into each of them. I encourage you to read these slides. We will post them on the website of Head of Public Service. So I will just go to the issues that I have encountered as a parent and as a teacher. I also forgot to say that I'm a board member in a school. I hope my school is logged in. And even the schools where I went to school down in the rural area in primary school, I hope Luhoho Secondary is logged in here. It is what I am because of that school. Maturu Secondary, I hope you are logged in here. You made who I am to be today, and I'm very grateful. So I'm talking about unbudgeted and unsupported revenue and expenditure. This is one of the issues that the auditor has raised on the samples that he has done. The director of schools talked about budgeting. You are the accounting officer. You are very key. You are supposed to have a budget and have that budget approved by the board. Now, most of you have this as an issue. You just wake up and it's like you are running your house. But even your house, you need to organize yourself in terms of the revenue and expenditure. Some of you have overdrawn bank accounts. And you know, when you do that, there's a penalty that you attract, and that penalty will go to the taxpayers' money. Some of you have 2 accounts. So one is overdrawn, the other one is not, and then you offset. The bursars who are logged in, I know you understand what I mean by offsetting bank balance. That is extremely wrong. You should not do that, and you should avoid overdrawing. Keep checking the bank balances. With the technology now, even with your phone, you will be able to know how much you have in your account so that you can hold on the check without making the checks to balance, to bounce. Inaccuracies in capitation grants. This one is an audit query that goes to schools, but Head of Public Service, I would like to address this to the State Department of Basic Education. When the money is allocated, the capitation money is allocated to the schools, the auditor starts following it from the time it is released from the ministry to the school. And the auditor is saying there is inaccuracies, it's not tallying up. What you have released, for example, to my school where I went, which now has a secondary school, to Luhoho, if the auditor checks what has left Nairobi, the State Department, and what has reached Lugogo is not the same. That is a query that is caused by the State Department. That one I'm addressing to the State Department. Material uncertainty related to ongoing concern, performance deficit due to under or non-collection of tuition fees and other approved charges, and this late disbursement of exchequer. You are also causing this audit query to the school. This I address to the State Department. You are the cause of this query to the school. And I know there are some schools with parents who are, you know, humbling with very poor background. My own father used to take beans and maize to school if he could not be able to raise my school fees. So I know there are schools where tuition is not paid, but they will come with these goods. So it's like a barter trade. But the teachers who are logged in here and the bursars who are logged in here, please appreciate that and take and convert into fees and be able to mark that parent as paid. Next. Irregular transfer of funds to Kenya Secondary Schools Heads Association. I know this is an association where heads of schools, the chief principals, the senior principals, and principals are members of this school. Now, of this association, this is sort of a welfare. That is what the auditor is saying. You should not be transferring money from the school to this welfare. This is a welfare association. I've not read the regulations. I don't know if it is registered. I stand corrected. But this is for your own welfare. So the auditor is questioning that. Then lack of board management, a lapsed period, failure to hold meetings. This one is a query which is caused by the State Department of Basic Education. You should have a list of who is expiring, and so that you replace, you have a seamless transition. We should not have a gap, because the CEO TSC has told us the role of board of management. They are oversight. So when the school can go for a year, for 2 years without the board of management, that means there's no oversight to that school. And this is a query that is squarely in the hands of State Department of Basic Education. The principal teachers, senior principal and chief principals and principals, you should have PFM as part of your regulation, part of your book, part of your statutory reading. Whether you are a chemistry, I said that at the beginning, whether you are a chemistry teacher or biology or Kiswahili or CRE, you are the accounting officer for the State Department at the grassroots level. Next slide. Underfunding of capitation grants, again, that is going to the State Department. I'm not reporting anybody, but these are audit queries that face the school. Failure to prepare school improvement plans. This is for the chief principals, senior principals, and principals. This is your role. It has well been articulated by the director and the chief the CEO of TSC. Unapproved fees for Parents Association Support Program. This, I want to speak to it with a lot of passion, Head of Public Service. Before this gadget called mobile came, we had students who could go to school and all was well. But now I happen to have 2 editions of my children. I have children where there was no mobile, and then I have children where we had mobile. So when you go to school, from when you are reporting, you are told as parents, we are forming a WhatsApp group, and this WhatsApp group is for education purpose, and the class teacher will be the administrator, and you are all excited about it because now with the technology, you will be able to communicate. They will tell you your child is unwell, you will go to school. I mean, you are real time with the school. But this gadget has brought problems. That is where a lot of money is raised, which does not hit the bank account, which is just money that is shared with the teachers and the board of schools. There are some schools that are national schools and they draw students from very poor background and they join these schools. But they have set a limit and said, for you in Form 1, Term 1, you have to pay this amount of money. Some parents are not able to pay and you cannot complain because you know your child can be intimidated. This is a habit that has come with the mobile phone. I told you I have 2 editions. My first edition, we did not have this. These days, we have this, and it is really something that is coercing the parents. Please, head teachers and teachers, can this habit stop? Next slide. Then the procurement irregularities, I know you will go through my slides, the procurement irregularities. The director talked about e-procurement. I know this procurement irregularity is very, very rampant. The board of governors are suppliers to the school, no quotation. The head teacher takes from the neighbor. You bring the beans, you bring the maize, and in fact, it is not paid. So these procurement irregularities are supposed to stop. Please use your procurement laws as you have been told by the Director of Education. Next slide. Yeah, continue next slide. I'm waiting for you. There is timely and full disbursement of capitation monies to the school. This again goes to the State Department. The way forward, I have made suggestions there. Please read at your own time how to have a clean audit report like the 5 schools that we have seen. You are very, very key in managing the students and also managing the funds that you are given to you. For us to reach Singapore, we need to have a very well-run school and a morally upright, a morally good students. You work on the students at a very formative age, which is very, very important, and you are their mother and father. I told you I taught for 6 years, and those 6 years I was in a girls' school most of the time. Even now, I'm a board member in a girls' school. So now this goes to TSC. Please check if the teacher has been in a girls' school, she should go to a boys' school. Boys also need ladies. I was transferred from a girls' school to a girls' school, so I really don't know how boys are. I know there are challenges that they face, which I would have addressed them more as a lady because boys normally lean to their mother. So this is to the Teacher Service Commission. When you are transferring, please look at it so that you mix. Let us have all the male and female in schools and try to balance. I leave because teachers, I want to take this time to thank the president for nominating me as a member of National Land Commission. And one of the audit queries that I have seen is land issues. That is number 13, ownership documents of land and motor vehicles. I hope if Parliament approves my nomination, teachers, Head of Public Service, I will copy your style of management so that I will have a forum of all the teachers, head teachers, because they are the accounting officers of schools, and we run with this program that if Parliament approves, Shule program, where I will make sure that all public schools in Kenya have land documents so that they are not grabbed. And if there will be any grabbing, I will also come up with a program, Mupige Nduru, to the National Land Commission. So I will be asking you, heads, our chief principals, senior principals and principals, wapi nduru kama shule yako ilikuwa grabbed, kwa nini hukupiga nduru? Thank you so much, Head of Public Service. Thank you, and pass my really grateful to the President for the nomination he gave me. Thank you.
Thank you, FCPA Susan. Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service, Mr. Felix Koskei, the Principal Secretary, State Department for Basic Education, Professor Ambassador Julius Itok, the Chair Teacher Service Commission, Dr. Jamlek Muturi, the Acting CEO, Teacher Service Commission, Madam Evelyn Mitei, colleagues in Teacher Service Commission and State Department for Basic Education, leadership of the secondary schools, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Crisantos Odhiambo, the Head of Human Resource Management and Development at Teacher Service Commission. Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service, allow me to moderate 2 sessions. We seem to be behind time, but allow me to moderate the 2 sessions, and that is remarks from representatives and the plenary. However, we want to apologize because of time. We may not go through the plenary, but we will allow for the remarks from the representatives. Allow me also to make the following announcements. We want to apologize to the attendants who are people living with disability, that we are not being able to allow them in. That is because the maximum number of 10,000 had been reached earlier, and we are not able to remove anybody to allow them in. However, we will send the recording to the National Council for People Living with Disability to interpret and share, the same with the schools so that they are able to access. We will also not be able to go through the plenary because of time, but we will make sure that all the questions, the over 1,000 questions that have been asked, are all answered and the same answered, shared on email. And finally, all the presentations that have been made here will also be shared with the participants via email. Therefore, Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service, allow me to invite the first representative, and that is Mr. Kuria. Mr. Kuria is the principal Muranga High School and also the chair of Kenya Secondary Schools Heads Association. Mr. Kuria, karibu.
Thank you very much. The Head of Public Service, Mr. Koskei, the PS State Department of Basic Education, and the Chair Teacher Service Commission, the CEO, Teacher Service Commission, and all the participants, good morning. As you have been told, I'm Willie Kuria, the Chairman Kesha and Principal Malanga High School. I don't say that we are glad because of this engagement. As stated earlier, it is one of its own kind. We have not had any like this one. And therefore, this is a great learning experience for all of us. As school heads, as teachers, we really appreciate this engagement because it has helped us to even get more enlightened on the issues of governance in our schools. From the speakers, we have already learned some things. We have been reminded. We have learned of prudent financial management because we know that the schools are places where we are entrusted with the public resources. They are entrusted with our youth. And therefore, it is important upon us to be able to manage finances very well so that we can, and therefore that would help us to promote transparency. We know that in order to promote transparency and in the management of finances, then we need a lot of transparency. We need to undergo along the processes of preparation of the budget. We have to do some regular financial reporting and accountability in schools. Other things that we have learned and which we continue to exercise is the transparent procurement practices. We also need to do the strengthening of governance structures, especially the meetings of the BOMs. We do them regularly because they provide the oversight. We also need to do a lot of engagement with the stakeholders, that is the parents, the communities, the basic education ministry officials, so that we can be able to strengthen accountability, so that we can be able to ensure there's good governance in our schools. I want to note that sometimes when we are doing this, all these things, sometimes we have a number of challenges, and it has been lightly stated. Among the challenges we are having, as it has been put, is the issue of limited financial resources. These are some of the challenges that are affecting the good governance and the transparency, as well as the efficient service delivery in our schools. Because we know that some of these things, it's not possible to provide this efficient service. The limited financial resources, it is very difficult. It has already been mentioned that the issues of capitation there, and we find that because of little capitation coming, then we find that it becomes so difficult for schools to operate. Again, we find that even the fees that has been set up, these fees were set up in 2014, and now we're in 2026, the inflation. So again, it has become a big burden to the school leadership when they are trying to ensure that there is efficient delivery of services in our schools. If we can, for example, put it that the fees now charged in boarding schools is 53,000. But during our forums, when we try to calculate how the students spend money, how they spend money in schools per day, we have arrived at a budget of 95,000 per boarding schools. But what we get now is 53,000 from the parents. We expect a capitation of 22,000, but what we get is largely about 14,000. So these deficits are making it difficult for us to really be able to manage institutions effectively. I want to say, for example, this last year, the year that is 2025, we had a deficit of 6,860 per child. And that would mean nationally it was a deficit of over 22 billion. Again, this term that we are operating right now, the money in our accounts is 6,500, and we have been expecting this term to be 11,000. So you have seen that shortage of funds is really difficult for us to be able to manage schools. However, there are also other areas that we find that we have challenges. There is the issue of the lack of professional financial personnel. You see that most schools cannot be able to employ qualified personnel staff, the bazaars, because of lack of money. We find that most of our schools are day schools, and these day schools, they rely on this capitation alone. So when it does not come, they're not even able to pay salaries. So leave alone employing qualified staff. I think here I want to mention that almost all the schools in this country, I don't know of any which has no debt. And when the presentation was being made, I thought that maybe it should have mentioned, the auditor should have mentioned the level of debt burden in our schools. So we have that problem of the qualified staff, because if you employ a bazaar, maybe who is fully qualified, I don't think there is a school that can be able to pay them. So mostly, apart from maybe from national schools, most of the schools rely on low-level staff. Some are not even trained in financial management, especially day schools. There are schools even today, they rely on secretaries so that they can be able to manage funds for them. The other challenge we also have is the issue of, the challenge is the issue of staffing. With CBE, we needed some qualified staff who could be able to handle the new subjects that have in our schools. Things like electricity, things like aviation, things like marine technology, building and construction. All these subjects have come up because of the CBE, but we do not have this staff. I don't think there are any school with this staff. So this one is again actually stretching the school so much because they have to go out to look for staff to employ and pay with the BOM money, because the TSC has not been able to provide this. And actually, they are also not there in the field. So we are really struggling to get them. To get one, you really have to come back to be able to get somebody to come and teach fine art, somebody to come and teach building and construction. So we have that challenge in the CBE of staffing. So I think something should be done so that we get the trained staff, maybe the universities to provide trained staff, or something being done to ease this burden.
Thank you. You've got 1 more minute, please.
Yes.
1 more minute.
Okay, and then as I make my conclusions, then I want to say that as heads, we are committed to ensure that our schools are learning well, and in spite of the challenges that are there, we shall continue to really do the very best that we can. But I also want to add there by saying that the CASHA is a registered association, and the members contribute 500 shillings every month to fund the association. Otherwise, what comes there is money for activities, and there is no other way that the activities can be controlled other than when we put money in one account. That's why money is in CASHA, but it's a clearance account. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Willie. The next speaker is Beatrice Nyaboke, who is a deputy principal at Nile Road Secondary School. Allow me to put certain timelines. Beatrice, when you come in, use a maximum of 2 minutes so that we can be able to get as many, we can be able to make several people express their views. Thank you. Beatrice.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope everybody can hear me. Like it's been said, my name is Beatrice Ikobe, a deputy principal at Nile Road Special Secondary School in Njiru sub-county of Nairobi. I am also the chair lady of the Nairobi Deputies organization. So thank you very much for this opportunity. I really want to appreciate the Chief of Staff and all protocols observed. Thank you very much for this opportunity, for this one-of-a-kind conference that we are having. Now, from what we have learned, there are a lot of issues, but I just want to mention that deputy principals are the backbone of their schools. They have a big role to play, but from assisting the principals, they are in charge of supervision of curriculum implementation, coordination, management of student discipline, and support and supervision of teachers. The issue we have, especially in regard to discipline, with the current trend of increased abuse of drugs and the emerging social evils in the society, the deputy principal who is in charge of discipline in the school is faced with a lot of challenges. One of them being that we have to adhere to what is required of us according to the Basic Education Act, and they're embracing the alternative ways of ensuring discipline in schools. Then most of the teachers, you find, that are a little scared to handle discipline issues, and each and every case it is referred to the deputy principal. This leads to a lot of overwhelming emotionally of the deputy principals given the workload, and because of fear of victimization, where the teachers have embraced the policy of teach and go home, then the deputy principal is left to handle too many issues, which lead to mental illness. And I'm glad somebody has mentioned about the idea of mental illness. since we are embracing the idea of discipline to build these citizens, to have good citizens of the future, then, and the counselors are not allowed in school, would like the ministry together with the Teacher Service Commission to look into it so that we have a way of having maybe professional counselors allowed in school once in a while to assist in managing discipline, to raise these citizens who are the future of this nation. Secondly, we would also like to say that another challenge is that there's no clear policy or a guideline, or not policy or guideline, but especially the balance. It becomes difficult for deputy principals to balance between ensuring discipline and maintaining the students' rights. Sometimes you're talking to students and they tell you that it's my right, and yet we are supposed to maintain discipline. I would like maybe that there should be some kind of policy which will then allow us as deputies to manage disciplines in accordance to the regulations that are in place. Another issue that is facing deputies as we do our service delivery. I'm glad our employer is in the house. Our Teacher Service Commission Secretary, that there's an idea of too much stagnation in one job group for over 10 years. You're a deputy principal, and there doesn't seem to be some. You attend several interviews and something goes wrong somewhere which deputies are yet to understand. We do appreciate the career progression, and maybe in the mode of having been more transparent, we can have more of such issues coming up.
Beatrice, you may want to finalize kindly.
Yes, I would want to finalize by saying that there is a need to have some kind of responsibility allowance for the deputy principals, given the kind of work they do, being the first to report in school and the last to leave, or the first to wake up and the last to sleep. There should also be some strong support systems which can help to manage discipline in schools, and as well as some programs to strengthen the teacher welfare so that the mental health is taken care of to enable us to handle issues. Otherwise, thank you very much for this opportunity, and we look forward to another engagement. Deputy principals remain committed to student success in each and every way and to serve the country more effectively. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Beatrice. Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service. The last remark is from Mr. Bernard Onyango. Bernard Onyango is a bursar at Kasagam Secondary School from Nyanza. Bernard, please, and please observe the 2 minutes window. And finally, we have been granted a window of 15 minutes for the plenary. So as Bernard proceeds, we will ask all those who have questions for the plenary to raise their hands. When you raise your hand, you will be able to see a prompt to allow you as a panelist. Please accept so that you can be able to proceed to speak. In the meantime, let us have Bernard. Thank you. Bernard, please unmute and proceed.
Thank you. Hello.
Proceed, we can hear you very well.
Yes, thank you, sir. To the chief guest, that is the public service staff, our PS, Dr. Professor Julius, Directors, Ministry of Education, and TSC, Deputy Principal and the principals, and all the BOM members. This is to allow me a few issues that we are facing as the bursars and the counselors.
Mr. Onyango,
yes.
would you kindly turn on your camera? Thank you.
You are able to see me? Hello?
Yes, please. We can see you.
Yes. So I just have a few concerns to raise. That is number one on our capitation grant. So kindly we request the ministry that we should be having remittance, that it should be coming in a good time so that we plan with the money and have ample time so that we are able to acquire goods and services at the right time. We are also pleading with the ministry that we opened an MIF account, that is maintenance and improvement account. Kindly let the money be wired directly to the account and not be brought to the school account. Because now once it is brought in the school account and we realize that the capitation has been reduced, it gives us an easy time, hard time, so that at most of the time you will find that in most of the schools the money is not transferred. We are also requesting that we revert back to the 50, 30%, 20% allotment of funds. Because like now we are in term one where we have several games that we've been organized by the ministry, but now what we've received as a quarter one is not able to do all this plus our salary payments. We are also requesting that the vote heads that have been lumped as other votes be identified and let them be separated so that it gives us easy time during our budgeting. We are also requesting at the same time, there should be an allocation for external exams like KCSE. During KCSE, we are really suffering because now we only receive money to run internal exams, but not external exams. So kindly let that one be considered. We are also requesting that the capitation, the 22,244, be increased because now it has stagnated for long despite the high cost of living that we are all aware has escalated, equally to the parental obligation for those who are charging lunch fees and equally boarding fees. We are requesting that they be reviewed upwards so that we are able to actually meet our obligations. You will see, as the auditor was putting, that we are having problem in paying our sundry creditors, and it will be evident in our audit reports that the schools, the sundry creditors is rising and rising throughout, and managing it with the same amount that we've been receiving and collecting from parents for all over the years. It will not be that easy. We are equally crying that for the grade 10 selection, the selection model should be reviewed. You realize that this year, national schools and sub-county schools and regional schools almost picked all the grade 10 students. So we request that let it be reviewed so that the less privileged schools equally get grade 10 selection. That will be the number of that. Item number 2 is about our terms of engagement as school workers. Equally, we are requesting that we should have a standard salary schedule that runs across all public secondary schools. We should have clearly defined terms of service in all public secondary schools, covering employment, remuneration, and salary increment. Some of us, we have stagnated from the same salary increment for the last 10 years. Terms and service in terms, i.e. permanent and contract. Lastly, we request on professional and ethics and our standards. The channel we face in the process of carrying out our duty include the following. 1, freedom to express your opinions and professional ideas, since we are not the final decision makers when it comes in terms of financial management. Number 2, we lack of job security. You may raise some critical issues that you may see in terms of management, but now that you are vulnerable to the board, you may be told the next day you pack your things and go. And lastly, at most of the times we work under duress. So if all these things can be looked into, our improvement, our resources will be managed fairly, and all things will be done. And our last plea to the ministry, in order to address the challenges herein, we therefore appeal that the accounts personnel should be absorbed by the Ministry of Education, and we'll check into the claiming area of report of 2014 and review it and maybe put it in the implementation. Otherwise, for today, thank you so much, the organizers of this. We hope that more engagement shall be there. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernard. Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service, following the grant to have the plenary, I want to invite my colleague, Duncan Gichamu, to moderate the session by allowing those who have expressed interest by raising their hands so that they are allowed to ask their questions. We have a team from Teacher Service Commission and State Department for Basic Education who are ready to answer those questions. So the team, please be on standby as the questions are being asked. Duncan, please take over.
Thank you very much, Bwana Santos. And again, just to remind us that all these recordings, all these presentations will be forwarded to the emails that we have used for the purposes of registration to attend this virtual. The number two, we are so overwhelmed with the pictures that we are seeing across the country of different principals, of different BOM members seated and watching this virtual. So we will also share a platform where you can subsequently be able to send those photos that you have taken as you attend these sessions. Then now on the plenary, I have unmuted, and you can start with Bwana Wafula Liru. Are you able to say something? I've unmuted those who have raised their hands, so please proceed and make your comments. Stephen Maina, are you able to speak? Wesley Lagat. Stella, we are seeing over 150 persons who have raised their hands, but okay, let's say with Adan. Adan Yusuf, can you say something? Adan? Adan Yusuf? Jonathan Lelgo?
Oh, yes.
Jonathan Lelgo?
Yes, sir.
Kindly comment.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Sorry, Bwana Jonathan, you have muted yourself again. Kindly unmute. Okay, we move on to the next. Miriam Kialo. Madam Grace Ngala. Adan Yusuf, I'm seeing you have unmuted. Do you have something to say? Is there Jacob Okome? I'm seeing your hand is also up. Sorry, if you are not willing to speak, kindly put your hand down so that we can only have those who are ready to comment, say something. The CEO of TSC, kindly, please say something.
Thank you very much. Allow me to respond to a few questions that were asked. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. You have gone off for something? A few questions, starting by the question from FCPA, Susan Oyatsi. Madam Oyatsi, we've confirmed you're still our teacher, TSC number 304136. in terms of gender balance in schools. It is a policy of the Commission that when we are posting administrators to schools, we ensure gender balance. So that is taken care of, Madam Susan, and it is actually ingrained and anchored in our policies. When a principal is a man, we must have a deputy who is a lady, so that both the genders of learners are taken care of. On the question asked by the Chief Principal, Muranga High School, and Kesha Chair on staff shortage, yes, indeed, there are staff shortages in the new areas of curriculum, in areas like metalwork, electrical, electricity, artwork, creative art, sports science. What we are doing to address this is we are working with Kenya School of Tibeta to look out for the teachers who are qualified in technical subjects so that we can be able to absorb them and employ them for secondary school. That conversation is ongoing, and I'm sure in our next advert, we will be able to advertise those new areas and fill them. Indeed, they are not there. We do understand that, and it is an area of need. The questions from the deputy principal from Nile Road on the discipline of students versus rights and the issue that teachers must teach and go home. I want to tell the deputy principals, teaching is a noble profession. And it is a calling that sometimes calls on us to take the extra mile to be able to do this work. We do appreciate the work that you put in as deputy principals, and we do understand the challenges that come with it, especially dealing with learners from urban centers. We should not teach and go home, because the learners of this country depend on us to support them, to mentor them, and even to change their character so that the issues of discipline do not occur. There is a very clear difference between discipline and student rights. I think any offender, there are regulations that are laid down that we must use to be able to discipline our learners. We know the current learners have issues with their rights, but I think let the rules be followed. Every school has regulations, school rules that have been laid down. There is the issue of too much stagnation. I want to assure the teachers of this country that this government has promoted 274,218 teachers in the last 3 years. And we are continuing to do that subject to availability of funds. We have ensured that the process is fair, on merit, and transparent. So I will ask the deputy principals who have stagnated to continue clapping until their turn comes. On responsibility allowance for deputy principals, the positions of school administrators was determined based on a job evaluation by the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. So the evaluation determined the worth of every job and attached a commensurate salary to that worth. And I want to assure the principals that management of discipline of learners is one of the parameters that was evaluated by SRC, and therefore you're paid according to the worth of your job. Thank you very much, Linda.
Thank you, CEO. Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service, allow us to get to the next session. And I want to formally invite the Chairperson, Teacher Service Commission, Dr. Jamlek Muturi, who will make his remarks. And I want to humbly request him, after his remarks, then he will invite the PS, State Department for Basic Education, who will in turn invite the Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service. After that, we will have a closing prayer, and I will guide on who gives the prayers. Karibu, Chairman.
Thank you. The Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service, Mr. Felix K, Principal Secretary for Basic Education, Ambassador Professor Julius Bitok, Acting CEO, Teacher Service Commission, Senior Minister of Education and TSC officials who are present, chairpersons and members of Board of Management, all principals and deputy principals, all hands of finance, accounts, procurement, and internal audit, students, representatives present, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Good morning, sorry. It is my distinct honor this morning to address you in this meeting where we have the heads of institutions, their deputies, members of Board of Management, and heads of finance, accounts and procurement, and internal audit, who are charged with key responsibility of managing our schools. On the onset, allow me to say that TSC is among the Chapter 15 commissions and independent offices and is anchored under Article 248, Sub-Article 1 and 2 of the Constitution. It is an independent commission and enjoys operation and financial autonomy. And I'd like to inform the members of the board that the new constitution, TSC, is anchored under Article 2.7, Sub-Article 1, forms the commission. Sub-Article 2 gives the laws or the duties of the commission. Relevant provisions of the constitutions are underpinned and operationalized by the TSC Act 2012. The Act provides the governance structure and further outlines the functions of the commission. In addition, it lays the foundation for policy and regulatory framework that elucidates the processes and procedures relevant to its mandate. To the members of the board and all the listeners, it's good for us to know that the commission comprises of the chairperson and 8 other commissioners. With the CEO, we form the board, so the total, we are 10. The functions and the roles of the commissioners is to give strategic direction and provide oversight to the secretariat, who are headed by the CEO. Let me say that I really appreciate, on behalf of the commission, the Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service for convening this important consultative meeting that brings together key leaders in the management of public schools, which is a first of its kind. This proactive approach, sir, will enhance service delivery and deepen whole of government approach in service delivery to the citizens of this country. I wish also to recognize the dedication of the chairpersons, the principals, and all those who continue to play a critical role in ensuring that the education institutions remain accountable, effective, and responsive to the needs of our learners. This engagement, sir, comes at a crucial moment when the government of Kenya is emphasizing efficiency, transparency, and service delivery across the public sector. Our secondary schools, therefore, sir, are not just institutions of learning, they are centers of national development where values, discipline, and knowledge are nurtured. The environment, therefore, within which these schools operate must reflect the highest standards of professionalism, integrity, and accountability. In this regard, members and listeners, on behalf of the Commission, I want to assure you of unrelenting commitment to ensuring competent, professional, and well-motivated teaching workforce capable of driving education transformation through the CBE and beyond is ensured. Our teachers are therefore the heartbeat of curriculum implementation. And that's why, as the CEO has rightly put across, this is a calling. Besides this being a profession, it has an element of sacrifice. And therefore, this meeting is so crucial because it's going to enable all the participants to have full understanding and have commitment and be empowered on the aspirations of the national government towards education, which without that knowledge, it cannot be realized. It is as a sort of the fundamental role played by the Board of Management that the Commission, through its regulations, has delegated some of its constitutional mandate of undertaking one discipline. I'd like to inform the members of the board, whose the principal is secretary, that they are delegatee to the constitutional mandate of the TSC in discipline. This is the discipline of teachers and discipline of even the learners. For the teachers, we call upon, as a commission, the members of the board to ensure that due diligence is followed when discipline is being instituted upon the teacher or anybody else. In that regard, it's going to follow all the statutory, and regulation documents, so that we don't have a lot of cases whereby somebody feels unfairly treated. The board is also a delegatee on the recruitment of teachers for the secondary schools. You realize the recruitment of teachers, the Board of Management are the ones that are given that responsibility. It is important, therefore, for the board to ensure there is fairness, there is transparency, there is equity and equality, and they follow all the regulations that govern the recruitment of teachers. It's also important for the Board of Management, and I'm happy, sir, that the chairmen of the Board of Management, the Board of Governors are here to note that the TSC does not envisage a situation whereby anybody handling a teacher is not a professional, learners is not a professional teacher. So that if you are recruiting anybody to manage the students, even in sports, in games, in classroom and the like, it is important that those people are registered teachers. That will ensure professionalism is enhanced. This consultative meeting, sir, therefore underscores the recognition of principals as integral members of the public service entrusted with shaping the future of our nation. Principals, as members of the public service, have a due responsibility. I'm re-emphasizing on this so that they know they are not only educators who shape the intellectual growth of our children, but also public officials entrusted with upholding the values and principles outlined in the Constitution. The school managers operate in an environment which is increasingly very complex. School leaders, therefore, are expected to manage academic performance, student welfare, infrastructure development, staff management, financial accountability, and compliance with the government regulatory simultaneously. In addition, we are implementing transformative reforms in the education sector, including competence-based approaches, digital integration, enhanced governance framework. These changes demand leadership that is proactive, ethical, and results-oriented. In that regard, Board of Management and school leadership must work as teams. Therefore, work collaboratively to ensure that institutions operate efficiently and in full compliance with government policies. Effective governance, clarity, role is very important. It's important that boards of management know that their role is to provide strategic direction and oversight on the learning of the institutions, while the principals and their management teams are responsible to do the day-to-day administration of schools. In that regard, it is important to ensure that the government and the parents and stakeholders get value for the resources entrusted on you, whether it is money, whether it is infrastructure, and also the learners. It is important, therefore, that every decision made within the school environment is guided by the principle of transparency and accountability and the best interest of the learners. Public resources entrusted to schools must be utilized prudently, and every officer must recognize the stewardship of these resources is a sacred responsibility. Ladies and gentlemen, beyond systems and policies, the success of our institutions depends on the mindset of the people who serve within them. The government has emphasized the transformation of public officers' mindset from a culture of entitlement to a culture of service. Mindset transformation means embracing integrity, discipline, and professionalism in every aspect of our work. It requires officers to be proactive, innovative, and solution-oriented rather than reactive in the way they carry out their duties. In that regard, for you administrators, this transformation also involves strengthening mentorship, leadership within the institutions, as well as much as possible, those who are more experienced to coach them that are below them. The values demonstrated, therefore, by school leadership directly influences the character and attitude of teachers and learners and the need to be role models. The success of public secondary schools requires strong collaboration among all stakeholders. Board of management must work closely with school administration, teachers, government agencies, and also the political class, because we are in our society, so that we create an enabling environment for learning and teaching. Similarly, school leadership must maintain good communication with staff, parents, learners, and the community, so that whatever you engage in, let the entire infrastructure of the school understand, so that at least the learners, the parents, and the community know why you are doing whatever you are doing. When stakeholders work together, therefore, with a shared vision, schools become more effective and responsive to the needs of the learners. As a Teacher Service Commission, we continue to support school leadership through policy guidance, teacher management, professional development initiatives. However, the responsibility of building strong institutions rests collectively with all of us. In conclusion, TSC is dedicated to empowering teachers through policies, professional development, promotions, career growth, and providing supportive working environment. We align our mandate with the broad vision of transforming public sector, and as the Chairperson of Teacher Service Commission, allow me to stress the importance of teachers embracing their role as champions of constitutional values. This involves advocating for fairness, promoting equality, equity, and ensuring that education services are centered on the needs of the learners. By doing so, we enhance public trust, which is very important for schools, and contribute to the transformative agenda of this country. This is in line with bottom-up economic agenda, better, ensuring that no learner, no school is left behind, regardless of the location of the school. I reaffirm our commitment to collaborating with all stakeholders as a commission to ensure that the teachers continue to embody constitutional values, serve as pillars of national development, and together we will be able to work and ensure that teachers remains the beacons of constitutional values, pillars of national development, and guiding rights for generations to come. Thank you so much. I wish all of you well. And in case there are any issues, we are open to dialogue and also working together with all arms of the government and all stakeholders to deliver education for this country. Thank you. In that regard, let me take this opportunity to welcome the PS to address the meeting. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you very much, Chairman, Teacher Service Commission. And allow me to begin by appreciating the Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service Okay, once again, Chairman of Teacher Service Commission, Acting CEO, all protocol observed, including education officials, principals, deputy principals, senior administrators, all the participants, and of course the organizers of this meeting. Head of Public Service, as I said in the morning, this is a historic meeting that you have called to take stock of what is happening in the secondary section of the education sector. For the first time, I'm sure in the history of this country, this meeting has never been called, with over 75,000 stakeholders. And head of public service, for a long time, people have never looked at schools as public entities. They have looked at them in the prism of sponsors, the faith-based, in the prism of entities which belong to the to stakeholders in certain villages and so on. But for the first time, the national government has, under your leadership, has made a deliberate effort to be able to bring together these people managing secondary schools and senior schools around the country. So I want to really, in a very special way, appreciate this meeting. And appreciate also the presentations that have been done by different persons, because they are very insightful and they also give another perspective, including matters of internal audit, matters of policy, and so on. So first, I'm not going to make a speech, but just appreciate you and your team for excellent job. 75,000 and counting on YouTube, on Zoom, and on many other platforms. Number two, I want to say ahead of public service that as a ministry and as a sector, we are in the middle of very serious reforms. There are many reforms. Of course, our flagship reform is competency-based education. We are in a very, very solid position on matters competence-based education. As you're aware, head of public service, when this government came into office, His Excellency decided that we must reform our education sector. And I want to say we are in a very solid position. And I say we are in a very solid position because the state of education in this country is on its strongest position. When you look at the kind of budget that goes to education sector, 700 billion plus, it has never happened in the history of this country. We have never reached 700 billion. Looking back, we were in 200, 300 billion. And by the time this government came to office, we were doing 500 billion. Now we are doing 700 billion. And it has never reached that place. When you look at capitation went to schools for the first time in many years before schools opened. I received the money in December, and by 2nd, 3rd of January, and the schools were opening on 5th, the money was already in school. That is why I insist that the state of education is strong, progressive, and really focused on meeting our national development goals. Look at transition. We have been able to transition 1.1 million learners from junior to senior, 98%. It's historical. It has never happened. Transitions for a long time has been in 80%, 85, 90%. This time around, we are doing 98% and counting. Textbooks are in schools. Infrastructure, look at the classrooms we have built. Look at the teachers. Of course, TSC has already mentioned this. 100,000. And I keep on saying, when you look back, you can see the trend. During Moist time, they used to employ like 500 teachers per year. Over the 10 years, about 5,000. During Kibaki, about 1,000 per year. For 10 years, 10,000. Uhuru, 2,000 per year. For 10 years, 20,000. William Ruto in 3 years and a half, he has done 100,000 teachers in counting. It is why I insist our state of education in this country is strong. Just to conclude, Head of Public Service, because this is a very historic meeting. Kuria asked about capitation. Of course, as you're aware, head teachers in this forum, we have a deficit of 22 billion on matters free-day secondary education. And we've been engaging the Treasury, we are engaging Parliament, and we are doing everything possible to ensure that we have enough resources. And you know, education is taking almost 30% of the budget. And the resources that we get are not enough. But whatever we have, the government is doing everything possible to ensure that priority is given. And by the way, when you go to Treasury, when you talk about education, it is first priority. Even as we speak now, we have asked for money for capitation for next term, starting in May, because the government is very keen to ensure that we get it right on matters education. Head of Public Service, coming to leadership, I want to say that now that you have brought us together to reaffirm the position of accountability in the public service from the education sector, I want to confirm that as leaders in this sector from Jogo, we are very keen to work together very closely with our board of management, our school leaders, the Teacher Service Commission, because it is here really that we have the responsibility to ensure that our schools are managed properly, our board of management do the right thing, our teachers are doing the right thing, there's accountability, and there's delivery to the child. And I want to reiterate and reaffirm our commitment as a ministry, our commitment as a State Department to ensure that everything is done according to the law and according to the policy that is put in place by this government. So, Head of Public Service, I want to thank you very sincerely for calling us to order as a sector, as a ministry, as a commission, as public service, so that everybody knows that really the ultimate is to ensure that we do the right thing, we get it right as education stakeholders. And I like this meeting because it brings together not only the teachers, as traditionally have been, we have also key stakeholders who include the managers of our schools, including BOM and also our bursars, because many a times I get complaints that sometimes we send money to our schools, the head teachers don't even inform other stakeholders. And I think this is the forum now where we need to tell everybody we must be accountable, we must be open. So with those many remarks, Head of Public Service, allow me to thank you once again, and in a very special way, say you have elevated public service to another level. You have been able to steer the public service. And for the first time, and I'm sure all the stakeholders will agree with me, they have never been called by any head of public. They have never had any meeting with the head of public service since independence. So this is a first and a historic meeting for that matter. So allow me now, head of public service, to humbly invite you to be able to address, this is your meeting, so that you can be able to address 75,000 stakeholders on senior and secondary education around the country. And thank you very much. And I want us to put our hands together. I don't know whether they will listen, to be able to invite our guest of honor this afternoon, Honorable Felix K to address us. Karibu, Head of Public Service. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Bitok, the Principal Secretary, State Department for Basic Education, Chair of TSC, Bana Jamblek, CEO, Evelyn, all chairpersons and members of boards of management of our secondary schools present, all principals of secondary schools, all deputy principals of secondary schools, and all senior administration officers, namely heads of finance, accounts, procurement, and internal audit. Today's meeting presents an important opportunity for us to engage candidly and build a common front in delivering the government's development agenda under the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. This engagement is intended to remind us that public service is not merely about occupying positions within institutions. It is about embracing a shared commitment to transformation, discipline, and excellence in the delivery of services to the people of Kenya. We must constantly reflect on how our institutions, systems, and leadership practices can better support the national aspirations of building a more efficient, responsive, and result-driven public service. Indeed, our collective ambition is to organize our public institutions in a manner that enables our country to steadily move forward towards the standards of efficiency, discipline, and prosperity that have transformed nations such as Singapore. Achieving such aspirations requires a public service that is focused, accountable, and driven by a strong sense of duty to the nation. In this regard, the leadership of our secondary schools occupies a particularly important place. Schools are among the most visible institutions of public service within our communities. The values, discipline, and standards demonstrated within these institutions shape the attitudes and character of the young people who will ultimately inherit the responsibility of leading our nation into the future. From the earliest days of organized society, communities have recognized the teacher as one of the most influential figures in shaping the destiny of our people. A teacher does far more than transmit knowledge. A teacher shapes the mind, molds the character, and guides the young as they begin their journey into responsible citizenship. Within the classroom, the teacher engages a mind that is still forming, curious, impressionable, and full of possibility, and patiently nurtures it into discipline, confidence, and purpose. In this way, the relationship between the teacher and the student becomes one of the most powerful forces in shaping the future of any nation. Indeed, when we reflect on our own journeys, each one of us can trace our path back to a teacher who influenced our lives in a profound way. Every leader, professional, public servant, and citizen contributing to society today has at some point sat before a teacher. It is teachers who awaken curiosity, nurture talent, instill discipline, and help young people discover their potential. For this reason, the title Mwalimu has over time come to command deep respect within our society. It reflects the understanding that a teacher is not merely an instructor of lessons, but also a mentor, a counselor, a guide, and at times a firm but caring disciplinarian who helps learners find the right path in life. Many teachers go even further, providing stability and guidance to learners who may come from difficult circumstances. In some cases, the teacher becomes the voice of encouragement where there is doubt, the source of direction when there is confusion, and the steady hand that helps a young person regain confidence and focus. So through mentorship, patience, and personal example, teachers help shape not only the academic journey of learners, but also their character and outlook on life. In doing so, teachers play a role that extends well beyond the classroom. They help mold responsible citizens and future leaders of our nation. It is important to appreciate that the responsibility of shaping young minds does not rest on teachers alone. Our schools function as important institutions within the community, supported by the collective effort of teachers, school leadership, and boards of management. These structures provide the governance, guidance, and oversight necessary to ensure that schools remain centers of learning, discipline, and moral development. Through their stewardship, boards of management play a critical role in safeguarding the integrity of our schools and ensuring that the environment within which our children learn is stable, accountable, and conducive to excellence. In many parts of our country, schools stand as important pillars of the community. They bring together teachers, parents, school leaders, and local communities around the shared responsibility of nurturing the next generation. The partnership between educators and boards of management, therefore, goes beyond administrative responsibility. It represents a collective commitment to the future of our children and the stability of our society. When this partnership functions well, schools become places where young people are not only educated, but also nurtured to become disciplined, responsible, and productive members of society. This is why, ladies and gentlemen, the work undertaken within our schools must always be viewed with the broader context of national development. Every lesson taught, every learner guided, and every policy implemented within the school system contribute in one way or another to shaping the future of our nation. Teachers and boards of management, therefore, serve not only their institutions, but also the wider mission of building a responsible, knowledgeable, and forward-looking society. As we reflect on the important role that schools play in our community, it is equally important to recognize that our schools are integral institutions within the broader public service. The teachers who stand before our students each day, the principals and deputies who provide leadership within our schools, and the board of management that provide governance and oversight are all part of a larger public service ecosystem that is entrusted with serving the people of Kenya. In this regard, the work carried out within our schools represent one of the most important forms of public service, preparing the generation of citizens who will carry forward the aspirations of our nation. In many parts of our country, schools are among the most visible and consistent institutions of government presence within communities. Through the dedication of teachers, the leadership of school administrators, and the stewardship of boards of management, the education system becomes a direct expression of government's commitment to the well-being and future of its people. The values demonstrated within our schools, therefore, reflect not only the standard of the education sector, but also the ideals of the public services envisioned under the Constitution of Kenya. This means that the conduct, professionalism, and commitment demonstrated by those entrusted with the leadership and management of our schools carry a significance that extends beyond the school's compound. School teachers and leaders and educators help shape how young people understand integrity, discipline, responsibility, and service to the nation. In many aspects, the school's environment becomes the first place where learners observe and experience the practical meaning of responsible leadership and public service. The importance of education in shaping the future of our country continues to guide the priorities of government. It is for this reason that education remains one of the most critical pillars in our national development agenda. Recognizing the central role that schools, teachers, and education leadership play in this mission, His Excellency the President took an early step in establishing the Presidential Working Party on Education Reform. This initiative reflected the government's commitment to strengthening the education system and also ensuring that it continues to respond effectively to the needs and aspirations of our nation. The work undertaken by that working party reaffirmed the importance of building an education system that prepares our learners not only to succeed academically, but also to thrive in a rapidly changing world. Our schools must therefore continue to nurture learners who are creative, disciplined, innovative, and ready to contribute meaningfully to society. Achieving this goal requires the continued dedication of teachers, the leadership of school administrators, and the responsible stewardship of boards of management working together within a shared vision for the future of our country. In this regard, the government has already taken several concrete steps to strengthen the education sector and support the work undertaken within our schools. These include, number one, is the recruitment of additional teachers through the Teacher Service Commission to address teacher shortages and strengthen learning outcomes in our schools. Second is investment in school infrastructure, including the expansion of classrooms and facilities necessary to support the transition and pathways under the competency-based education framework. The third is sustained capitation support to education schools, ensuring that institutions across the country are able to maintain conducive learning environments and support the academic development of learners. And the fourth is strengthening of science, technology, engineering, and mathematical learning, recognizing the critical role these disciplines play in preparing learners for the demands of a modern and innovation-driven economy. These measures demonstrate the seriousness with which the government views the role of secondary schools in shaping the future of our country. At this level of education, learners refine their talents, develop critical thinking abilities, and begin to chart the pathways that will define their contribution to society and national development. As we look ahead, the role of our schools will remain central in preparing young people who are confident, knowledgeable, and equipped with the skills necessary to navigate the opportunities and challenges of the modern world. The education system, therefore, remains one of the most important foundations upon which our nation will build its future prosperity and stability. As we reflect, ladies and gentlemen, on the future of our secondary schools, I wish to place particular emphasis on the role of leadership within these institutions. Principals and boards of management are entrusted with more than the day-to-day administration of schools. They are called upon to provide vision, stability, and direction. We therefore expect the leadership of our secondary schools to remain prepared and forward-looking, able to anticipate challenges, respond to emerging issues, and guide their institutions with clarity and purpose. Leadership in our schools must also be driven by the desire to build lasting value. Every principal and every board of management member should aspire to leave behind a legacy that strengthens the institutions they serve. It should be possible for a community to look back and say that during the tenure of a particular school leader or board, the school experienced meaningful progress, strengthened its systems, improved its academic performance, expanded opportunities for learners, and enhanced its reputation as a center of excellence. Indeed, when a school rises and prospers, the pride of the surrounding community is immeasurable. A well-managed and thriving secondary school becomes a source of identity, dignity, and hope for the families it serves. Communities take pride in institutions that nurture their children, instill discipline, and open pathways to opportunity. In this way, the success of a school becomes the success of the entire community. I therefore encourage school leaders to think beyond the present and to work towards building institutions that will remain strong and respected long after their tenure. This means strengthening governance systems, investing in a culture of discipline and excellence, nurturing talent among learners, and ensuring that the values of integrity, accountability, and service guide every aspect of school management. At the same time, I wish to acknowledge and appreciate the individuals who accept the responsibility of serving in board of management. Many of you bring valuable expertise from different professional fields including education, administration, finance, law, and community leadership. Your willingness to serve is a demonstration of commitment to the development of our young people and to the progress of our communities. I encourage those who have been called upon to serve on these boards to lend their experience, wisdom, and professional knowledge in strengthening the institutions entrusted to their oversight. When principals, teachers, boards of management, and communities work together with a shared sense of responsibility and purpose, our secondary schools will not only succeed academically, but will also stand as strong institutions that nurture capable, disciplined, and responsible citizens for our nation. The responsibility of guiding and preparing young people for the future calls for the highest standards of professionalism and education from all those entrusted with the leadership and management of our schools. Education is a dynamic field, as we all know, constantly evolving with new knowledge, new technologies, and new approaches to learning. It is therefore essential that educators and school leaders remain committed to continuous learning and professional development so that they are well equipped to guide learners in a rapidly changing world. Encouragingly, many teachers and education leaders across the country have demonstrated a strong commitment to improving their skills, embracing new technologies, and adapting to emerging developments within the education sector. This willingness to continuously grow and improve reflects the professionalism that the teaching profession demands. When educators remain intellectually curious, well-informed, and open to innovation, they inspire the same spirit of inquiry and excellence among their students. At the heart of this professionalism lies a deep commitment to the learner. Every student who walks through the gates of a school does so with expectation that they'll be guided, inspired, and prepared for the future. It is therefore important that every moment spent within the classroom and within the school environment contributes meaningfully to the growth and development of the learner. Our young people deserve educators who are fully present, committed to their calling, and determined to unlock the potential that lies within every child entrusted to their care. With the honor of serving in the education sector also comes a profound responsibility to uphold the highest standards of integrity and personal conduct. Schools are institutions of trust. Parents entrust teachers and school leadership with what is most precious to them, their children. Society therefore expects that those entrusted with this responsibility will exercise their duties with honesty, discipline, and a deep sense of moral responsibility. For this reason, the conduct of teachers, school leaders, and all those involved in the governance of our schools must reflect the dignity of the profession and the trust placed upon them. The values demonstrated within the school environment shapes not only the learning experience of students, but also their understanding of leadership, accountability, and ethical conduct. When educators demonstrate integrity, dedication, and fairness, they help instill those same values in the young people they guide. It is therefore important that every learner receives the full benefit of the time, effort, and commitment that the education system is designed to provide. Our schools must remain places where teaching is carried out with seriousness of purpose and where learners are inspired to achieve their full potential. Any practices that undermine the quality of learning or shortchange students ultimately undermine the future of the very nation we seek to build. Equally, our schools must remain safe and nurturing environments for every learner. School leadership and boards of management have a critical responsibility to ensure that the welfare, dignity, and protection of students are safeguarded at all times. Any conduct that compromises the safety or well-being of learners must be addressed firmly and without hesitation. Protecting our students is a shared duty that lies at the very core of the education system. As institutions that form part of the public service, our schools are expected to operate within the policies, regulations, and standards established by law, by government. These frameworks exist to ensure order, accountability, and fairness within the education sector, while safeguarding equal access and opportunity for all learners across the country. School leadership and boards of management, therefore, have a responsibility to ensure that the policies, guidelines, and circulars issued by the relevant authorities are faithfully implemented. We have noted with concern instances where the government's policy position on school fees is clear, yet some institutions continue to require parents to incur additional costs disguised under various items such as uniforms, sporting materials, equipment, and other concealed charges. Such practices undermine the spirit and intent of government policy and place an unnecessary burden on parents and guardians. I wish to make it clear that such action must stop immediately. School leadership and boards of management must ensure strict adherence to the established guidelines on school fees and avoid introducing any levies that are not authorized. Our collective responsibility is to ensure that access to education is not hindered by practices that place undue financial strain on families. In any case, if, as the chairman of the principals, if it is found that the fees that are the fee guidelines that have been given is not enough or adequate to run a school, please engage the ministry, have a conversation with the ministry, quarrel with the ministry until you agree, so that we don't transfer the challenges that we are facing in school to parents, and yet the government has given direction, and that direction has to be complied with by everybody. So please, I encourage all of us to be engaging, having conversations with our respective institutions, the ministries and state departments, so that issues that may not be clear are cleared, so that the parents will continue bringing their children without any undue pressure on school fees. The management of schools demands a higher level of transparency, accountability, and prudence. Boards of management play a critical role in overseeing the administration of schools and ensuring that resources are utilized responsibly and that decisions taken within the institution reflect the best interest of learners. Through sound governance and responsible leadership, schools are able to maintain the confidence and trust of parents, communities, and the nation at large. This responsibility also extends to the proper management of the public resources that support our education system. Public education is funded through significant investment by government on behalf of the people of Kenya, with capitation funds intended to ensure that every learner has access to quality education within a conducive learning environment. It is therefore imperative that the systems used to plan, allocate, and manage these resources are handled with the highest level of integrity. Recent audit findings have, however, raised serious concerns regarding the accuracy of learner environment data, of enrollment data captured within the education system. A verification exercise on school records reveals significant discrepancies between the number of learners reported in the system and those actually present in schools. According to the findings associated with the school's audit process overseen by Office of the Auditor General, a substantial number of learners captured in the system could not be accounted for during verification. Such irregularities have serious implications because government capitation to schools is based on learner enrollment data captured in the National Education Management Information System, NEMIS. Where enrollment figures are inaccurately reported, public funds intended to support genuine learners are misallocated. This undermines public trust, distorts planning, within the education sector and ultimately denies deserving learners the full benefit of the resources intended for them. Let me therefore be very clear. Any manipulation of learner data, misreporting of enrollment figures, or any other irregularity that compromises the integrity of the education system will not be tolerated by the government. The management of public resources demands the highest standards of honesty, diligence, and accountability. Those entrusted with leadership within our schools, together with the governance structures that oversee them, must ensure that all data submitted through official systems is accurate, verified, and consistent with the actual situation on the ground. School leadership and boards of management therefore carry a critical responsibility to safeguard the integrity of the systems used for school administration and planning. The credibility of our education system depends on the reliability of the information that is provided through these systems and on the integrity with which public resources are managed. To this end, my office has been actively championing the zero-fault audit campaign, and you've, Madam Oyatsi has ably prosecuted the matter. And this zero-fault audit campaign is an initiative that promotes the prudent, responsive, transparent, and effective use and management of public resources. This is particularly important at a time when we are operating within a constrained physical environment. Secondary schools, just like all other public institutions, must therefore align themselves with the principles of this campaign and uphold the highest standards of accountability in the utilization of public resources. Ladies and gentlemen, we must continue to strengthen compliance with financial and administrative regulations, reinforce internal control systems, and ensure that our secondary schools as public institutions uphold the highest standard of accountability for every public resource entrusted to them for the benefit of our learners. Public funds allocated to education are meant to directly support the learning and development of our children, and it is therefore imperative that these resources are managed with the utmost integrity and responsibility. For our schools, this calls for strong financial management systems, adherence to proper procurement procedures, accurate and timely record keeping, and responsible stewardship of all public resources. When these systems function effectively, we can ensure that every shilling allocated to education is used as intended, contributing directly to improved learning environments, better teaching conditions, and stronger educational outcomes for our learners. So before I conclude, allow me to address an important matter relating to financial oversight and accountability within our schools. The Constitution of Kenya 2010 under Article 225, together with the Public Finance Management Act, mandates the National Treasury to establish financial controls, including internal audit arrangements across public entities. At the same time, the Basic Education Act, as it has been ably prosecuted, provides for the establishment of school-based auditing mechanisms within the education sector. While these provisions were designed to strengthen accountability, the current arrangement has presented structural and operational challenges in the internal audit framework for schools. These challenges include concerns relating to, one, the independence of internal auditor functions, secondly, the standardization of audit practice, and third, the alignment of school-level financial oversight with the broader national public finance management system. Given the National Treasury's constitutional and statutory mandate, our public finance management, internal audit policy, and fiscal oversight, there is therefore a compelling need to strengthen and harmonize the internal audit framework applicable to public schools. So consequently, I hereby recommend as follows. One is the principal secretary is responsible for basic education and national treasury shall initiate the necessary legal and administrative measures to ensure that internal audit arrangements for all public schools are aligned under the authority of the Internal Auditor General within the National Treasury. Secondly, the National Treasury shall put in place the necessary financial, human, and technological resources to strengthen internal audit functions and audit committees in public schools so as to enhance transparency, accountability, and prudent management of public resources. This gap has to be closed. Ladies and gentlemen, this step is intended to strengthen oversight, reinforce integrity in the management of public education resources, and ensure that the systems governing our schools remain consistent with the broader national framework for public finance management. I want to add and say that the Board of Management, of which most of us have been members, and some of us are still continuing to chair some boards, and sometimes we also chair, or we were patrons of schools. We have realized that there are a lot of challenges in schools. Challenges that brings questionable management of public resources, as I stated. You get in our secondary schools, majority of secondary schools are very weak procurement practices. They run their system, they do procurement, but even the record keeping, adherence to the law, choosing even a procurement method is a difficult thing to school management and the boards. And therefore, the schools have been found with a lot of irregularities when it comes to procurement. And this is likely to result in wastage, to result in illegalities that will end up making government lose funds. So I want to request all of us to revert back to the procurement law and the PFM Act and start designing our procurement manuals in our schools to align it with the law so that we ensure that we are always adhering to the law. This will eliminate engaging unqualified suppliers or allowing conflict of interest in awarding tenders, because we get board of management, members of board of management, sometimes even the management of the school, the principal, sometimes you get even the teachers, the suppliers of what is required in school. So let us avoid that and let us adhere to the law. Conflict of interest, as I said, is also something that has been observed on supply of goods and services to the schools that they oversee, and that undermines transparency and also value for money. So we need to be very careful to ensure that we deploy and employ and adhere to best practices that have been issued from time to time. There is also a lot of general poor maintenance of school infrastructure. Weak disaster preparedness has been observed. Failure to closely monitor infrastructure development, like construction of classrooms, labs, dormitories, where you realize that the quality is very poor. The money has been paid. These buildings within a year, all of them are just coming down. The floors are just coming out. The partitions are falling apart. And yet, we have the board of management and yet we have a principal, and yet we have public works people in those respective regions that needs to be done. So I would want to ask, especially the principals and the Committee on Infrastructure, to be very vigilant and to understand what needs to be done in construction. And to be very vigilant, because majority of those engineers, again, have been compromised. And therefore, they share the money and they leave you with a terrible product that sooner you'll be budgeting for its maintenance, and yet it is a new building. We have also seen a lot of inadequacy in oversight of school feeding programs. I want you people to look at it and make sure that it is oversighted in a manner that will ensure that whatever supplies of food are provided, there is transparency, there is also quality, and also there is practices that ensures value for money. Inappropriate use of school facilities, we've seen several principals and boards have allowed use of school facilities like halls, assets like buses, football fields, sometimes dormitories when schools are closed, for private purposes, perhaps churches and sometimes excursion and the rest, which is not a bad idea. But we need transparency in it. There must be a procedure, there must be a guideline, so that whatever proceeds you get from these outsourcing or giving out, renting or whatever, it has to be clearly documented for the benefit of the school. Issues of indiscipline in schools starts with the principal. I want to urge all of us to take the lead in ensuring that our students, our children are disciplined. Let us not sit back and allow our children to run amok, or to even allow the outsiders, the communities around you, or even other stakeholders to come and mess your system of management and discipline. You need to put your foot down and ensure that there's discipline in your schools. Another area that we've seen again is the irregular hiring of non-teaching staff. Please follow the procedures and guidelines as provided by the ministry. Let us not find from time to time schools being taken to court for wrong employment and labor procedures. Inadequate oversight of schools' assets again is another area where sometimes even number one schools, some schools may not even have title deeds. They are not protected, they are not even fenced, and they are not managed properly and kept in a manner that will instill confidence in the management of the people that have been given responsibility to run the institution, which leads to loss or misuse or theft of school property. So let us be very careful and ensure that whatever we have, whatever assets we have, we make sure that we take care of it, we make sure that we protect, and we make sure that we use it efficiently and effectively without being overused or underused or sometimes neglected. Another issue that we have observed is the issue of community management relationship. Sometimes you get this tension between the principal, board of management, and the community around. We want that communication to be strengthened. We want people to communicate and even the surrounding, the main stakeholders to understand what is happening in the school, what is the direction of the school, what is the future plan for the school, so that you will always carry them along. We need again to be very vigilant on political interferences in schools management. This one is being felt by almost every school, where the MCAs, the MPs, senior people, political people around want to interfere with the school in issues of management, in issues of admission, in issues of even posting of teachers or principals, and thereby messing up the entire ecosystem of the school. We need to be very vigilant, and the ministry has a very elaborate management architecture that you can use to report and also to make sure that you are shielded from those political interferences that happens from time to time. Boards of management, again, I want to urge them to be very, very, very vigilant, to be professionals, and ensure that the school's management led by the principal work in harmony with you people. The boards must provide oversight, and the principal and his management should actually manage the school. So let us have a harmony and a balance between oversight and management. We need to avoid a situation where the boards more often overruns the management to the extent now that there will be confusion and thereby making the school lack direction. So I want to ask all the boards to have a balance between oversight and management. The principals, again, should have a balance between management and oversight. For oversight to be optimized, you need to provide all the information required to the board so that they can make informed decisions. Otherwise, I want to really thank all of you for working very hard, sometimes under very, very difficult circumstances, like when the PS here directs and says that there must be 100% transition, and yet the facilities are not enough for them to be accommodated. I know that many principals, many a times, they get an over-admission. As a directive, you have a space perhaps of 100 students, you have brought 250, and perhaps sometimes nobody makes a follow-up to know how you will manage to keep them. I want all of us to be vigilant, the ministry again, to be also considerate and have a discussion with respective principals to understand the kind of constraints in terms of facilities, in terms of teachers, so that we don't sometimes bring down the standards of a school because of over enrollment, or sometimes again, you get a school that have many students, less teachers, you get another school with very few students and excess teachers. Let us have a balance so that we can run these schools efficiently and effectively. So in conclusion, let me conclude by expressing my appreciation to all those who serve in our secondary schools as teachers, principals, and as deputy principals and members of Board of Management. The work you undertake is vital service to the nation, should shape the minds, character, and aspirations of the young people entrusted to your care. I encourage you to continue serving with dedication, integrity, and a clear sense of purpose. Let us strengthen governance within our schools, safeguard public resources, and ensure that our institutions remain centers of discipline, excellence, and opportunity for every learner. If we remain steadfast in this shared responsibility, our secondary schools will continue to nurture the capable and responsible citizens who will carry our nation forward. Thank you, and God bless us all. Asanteni sana for listening to me.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Head of Public Service, for that powerful speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service, for the elaborate speech, your time, and the leadership. Allow me to make the following announcements before I call in my colleague to make the closing prayers. Number one, I want to reiterate that the presentations and the speeches made here will be shared with everyone who has participated and the schools. Again, we will make sure that the recordings for this forum are translated and shared with the secondary schools so that our brothers and sisters living with disability can also get access. And lastly, all the questions that have been asked will be answered and a response provided to respective officers who have asked the questions. Finally, Chief of Staff, allow me to request Mr. Kevin Anyor, who is a colleague director at Teacher Service Commission, to give us a closing prayer. Kevin, karibu.
Let us believe and pray. We thank you, Lord, for this day. We thank you for the gift of life. Lord, we thank you for the leadership of the public schools in this country, the leadership in the office of the Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service, the leadership of the Ministry of Education, and the leadership of the Teacher Service Commission. Lord, we ask you to guide us as we move forward. Bless the resolutions that have been made in this meeting. Guide us as we move forward to make the education in this country better for all our learners and in the interest of the entire public. I say this short prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Kevin. Duncan, you can allow participants to a few seconds to say bye, and the meeting is formally over. Thank you.